Broadcasting live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. Bills Chiefs. Wall-to-wall coverage of the AFC Championship game. Sunday from 10 a.m. till kickoff at 6:30 on the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR on the Odyssey app. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
2 days away from the AFC Championship, the Bills and the Chiefs, 6:30 on Sunday. We'll have coverage starting bright and early at 10 a.m. here on WGR. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The Bills on the report yesterday had Christian Benford limited for the second day in a row. Cornerback Taron Johnson was limited with a neck and shoulder injury after being a full participant on Wednesday. And then Matt Milano limited for the second day in a row. Deion Dawkins back at practice, full participant. He had missed Wednesday with an illness. For Kansas City, nobody limited or not practicing. So their injury report looks pretty clean. Elsewhere around the NFL, injuries in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts is good to go. He was a full participant yesterday after being limited on Wednesday. He's dealing with a left knee injury. Same goes for A.J. Brown, who is also dealing with a knee injury. Some coaching news around the league. Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers, is going to Jacksonville after all. After pulling himself out of the running, there was reports about Cohen having secret meetings with the Jaguars in the last few days. He's going to Jacksonville as the head coach and will also be collaborating with the owner on who their next general manager is going to be. Also in Dallas, Pete Carroll and Jerry Jones have reportedly had informal talks about him and the Cowboys head coach job. Sabres lost last night, 5-2. Their third period woes return. They went into the third tied 2-2. They gave up 3 goals in the third. Calgary wins. Sabres have one more game out west before returning home. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with the new Chevy from Paddock.
It's all Bills all day. Buffalo Bills Football Friday, exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
With 36 seconds left, the Chiefs can celebrate. They're headed back to the Super Bowl for the second consecutive year. Mahomes in the gun, takes a snap, looks to throw, pumps once, fires towards the end zone, and it is caught. Touchdown, Kansas City. It is caught by Kelsey, and the game is over.
And there is the last kneel down, and that will do it. The remaining 25 seconds will tick away as the Bills are only left thinking about what could have been.
They didn't bring us here to change the past.
They didn't bring us here at all. We brought ourselves.
Now he's going to take it and run, and he's got the first down and more. 10, 5, and muscles his way into the end zone for an unbelievable 26-yard touchdown run through a hole and away and into the secondary. 40, 30, 20, they're not going to get him. James Cook goes 65 yards for a touchdown. Here's the snap, fakes the handoff, back to pass, has time, looking deep over the middle, wide open is Andrews. Gets away from the tackle, but the ball is out, and Terrell Bernard forces the fumble and scoops up the football.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe on the home of the Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550.
Wow. Now that we have cameras in the studio, you guys can watch as I get emotional about things. I'm like emotional about this game already.
Greatest soundtrack to a movie, by the way.
I'm not kidding. On my drive in today, I was like, oh my God, I can't even take it. Hey, what's up? Hey, happy Football Friday. Jeremy and Joe, we're here. We're on. We're ready. I guess. Are you ready?
I'm cool. I'm calm, cool, and collected right now about this game. It is nothing like what it was for me last week heading into the Baltimore game. The Baltimore game for me was like, when's the game start? Now I'm like, I'm good. I'm confident. It's time.
Confident.
It's time.
It's definitely time.
It's time.
It's definitely time.
Like that is echoing in my head. Oh, it is time. They're going to do it.
It's definitely time. And, yeah, I mean, we've got a normal football Friday for you. Sal, Chris Brown at 9 o'clock as part of the Super Great American Football Friday Frenzy. We'll do check-ins quickly from the Eagles side of things and the Commanders side of things because, by the way, there's another game on Sunday.
There is. Right before this game.
That's right. Does it even feel like it? There's another game? I mean, there's another game. I don't know if I'll be able to focus on it, but...
Well, I mean, isn't this probably across the country, too? It's the undercard.
Yes, it's the undercard.
That game is the undercard easily. Like, this is the main event of the season. As much as Baltimore Buffalo was. Maybe it's on the same level as like a main event of the NFL season.
Yeah. Across a lot of different platforms, whatever, NFL ratings in the postseason have been down a little bit. Like, I expected Bills-Ravens to be a smash, and it was down from last year. Not that this is really something to care about a lot, but I would anticipate that Bills-Chiefs can reverse that trend. I mean, we've been waiting for this game, even though they played here in Buffalo last year. We've been waiting for the rematch at 13 seconds. We've been waiting for the make good on 13 seconds. The Bills to do the job to get to where they rightly should have been at least once. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I feel like in the last 24 hours, Joe, it's kind of started to really crystallize for me, and conversation has started to crystallize around Allen and his legacy. Because, listen, we've had a lot of fun, and it's been really cool talking about everybody eats. It's been really fun talking about how they can win games a lot of ways. But the reality is, when Sundays kick off, when that ball hits the air, these are legacy games for quarterbacks. And our friend, everybody's friend, Nick Wright, laid it out beautifully about what happens after this game, which is if the Chiefs win, Patrick Mahomes' postseason record goes to 17-3, right?
Okay.
And
two of those losses are to Brady.
In the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game, Mahomes goes to like 17-3, and Allen's about 7-6. And his point is, no one will ever be able to make the point that he's as good. And that's not wrong. You would know he's as talented, he's as great, but you would not be able to touch the same stratosphere. And that is kind of unfair. And I'm not setting the stage for if they lose, he gets blamed for it. Mm-hmm. But legacies are built in these moments. Patrick Mahomes' legacy is already firmly established. Why? Because of these games. Mm-hmm. He wins these games. He's been to 7 of them now after this one. And Brady and Manning and all the information we have readily available at the top of our minds. Like, how many Super Bowls Drew Brees make? You know, one. We know what Peyton Manning did in Super Bowls. We know what Ben Roethlisberger did in Super Bowls. Yep. How'd Matt Ryan do? 0-1. We just know it.
Yep.
You just know it, no matter how good he was. What's the defining characteristic of Phillip Rivers' career? Never made one.
Yep.
That's it.
Marino only got to the one.
Got there once, lost.
Yep.
He's the greatest quarterback of all time without a Super Bowl. And if Allen doesn't get one, he's the greatest of all time without one. Arguably. I mean, Marino was maybe ahead of his time. Whatever. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, man, it's intense.
Well, when you put it like that, now I'm like,
sorry.
Now I'm a little bit more amped up for it because of that. Like, my confidence can only go so far when that's all totally true.
He lays that out, and I think, you jerk, you're so right about that, and it drives up the intensity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're, of course, going for immortality. There have been teams that won 2 in a row, and they did not win the 3rd in a row. Most of them get stopped. Some get stopped right at this spot. At this doorstep, they get stopped right here. NFC Championship or AFC Championship, they get knocked off right here. So anyway, it's cool. Just another game, everybody, right? Just another game.
And not only that, I mean, the legacy of the matchup against each other, right?
Yeah.
Like what happens after? What happens after if you win is obviously we did it, slayed the dragon. You're going to the Super Bowl, and depending on how it happens, like if you want to make the case that Allen's as good as Mahomes, the day after he goes for like 350 and they win the game, like that. Maybe you could do that and not sound like an idiot. On the flip end of course, if Kansas City wins it, and I don't even want to really entertain that thought, but it is just like, what do you? It's just it would be an unprecedented level of success against another opponent, especially one of this caliber, because I saw the list of like teams that have met this often in the postseason in this short amount of time, 4 or 5 times in like a 5-6 year period. And you had like the Raiders and the Steelers in the 70s and the Niners and the Cowboys in the 80s and 90s and all of these rivalries in the postseason. Nobody swept the other one. Like, that never happened. It was 3-2, 2-3, 3-1. Like, nobody swept the other one. And the Bills, by every metric in the regular season, are as good as this team. Like, they pretty much are. Point differential, you would even say they're better. But if you go to 0-4, against them in the playoffs, like, I wouldn't even know how to handle that. It would feel, I don't know why it would feel different than 0-3. Maybe because it does feel like now it's time. Like before it was what? Before it was, okay, they've got nobody on defense to play this football game. So I've already got a little bit of a built-in excuse in my head. Maybe my expectation was lower because of that. Trent Sherfield is starting at wide receiver, by the way. And before that, it was they should have won. That's the other part, right? Like, they should have won.
Yep.
Should be 2-1 right now.
Should have won.
This should be the game to tie the series, not avoid the sweep. So I don't know. It means a ton for all of it. For the Chiefs' legacy, for Allen's legacy, for the legacy of the rivalry. There is no rivalry if you lose.
Right. I go on all the time in Kansas City. We have Carrington Harrison on every week, or every week that they play. And the tone, not to be like they're trying to belittle us or Bills fans, but the tone is just like, you guys ever going to do that? What do you think? Mm-hmm. You think you'll knock them off ever? You're mentioning sweeps. There have been quarterback matchups where one has the edge over the other. I saw a graphic yesterday. The one I remember is Aikman over Favre, 3-0. Like, Aikman never lost to Favre in the postseason. You've got a couple of all-time great matchups where somebody is 3-0. No one's ever gone 4-0. And if Mahomes does that to Allen, again, even if it's not Allen's fault, it doesn't really matter. He is... Well, isn't he the reason you're picking them? Isn't he the reason everybody's picking them? Because all the stuff about they don't need him to go Superman to win is cute until Sunday at 6:30, and then you're saying, "Hey, Soup, it's time."
Well, that's the thing for me is, like, I can appreciate on some level, okay, you can win games without needing him to go Superman, but my confidence comes in when they've needed him to go Superman.
He does.
He's been able to do it. Like that,
including against this team this year.
Against this team, yep. He had a stretch against Kansas City, and the Ram game is, I guess, maybe proof that he can go Superman and you can lose. But the Ram game and then the Lions game, like those are 3 big boy games against playoff teams, 2 on the road, and you needed him to show up because of run game or whatever. You needed him to show up in those games, and he did. He did, in all 3 of them. The 3 times in recent memory that he's needed to go off, he went off.
And his pass catchers showed up in those games. And the defense made plays in a number of those games, not the Ram game, but the others.
Right.
Against big boy opponents, yep.
And I don't have the same, that was kind of why I feel comfortable about the Bills right now, more comfortable than last week, is I haven't seen Mahomes look like that this year. Not what Allen looked like in that Lion game. Not what Allen looked like in that Ram game. And even in the Kansas City game, he outplayed Mahomes. So Mahomes has been fine. He's been better as the season's gone on. I have not seen him do what Allen has done in at least a couple games this season. So if it turns into a game like that, I like the Bills' chances. I really do. And that's beyond, hey, win the turnover battle, right? Like they've won the turnover battle. Well, they've at least tied or won the turnover battle in all of their games this year. I wonder, I would have to look. What's the record when they're tied in the turnover margin? Because there will be a lot of games like that, I'm sure, this year.
Yeah.
And the record was pretty good overall, so I would guess the record was pretty good on that front.
803-0550 is the phone number. Give us a ring. It is Football Friday. We are hanging out until 10 o'clock today. getting through all the stuff we got to get through. Injury updates, all that, that looks okay. The injury update has been pretty good. Football Friday brought to you by Celino Law Car Crash. Call Celino, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way. Will it be our last Football Friday, or will there be
two more?
Two more, basically, right.
Would next week be a Football Friday, even though there's no football that weekend?
Sure.
Unless are they doing the
Pro Bowl
games, dodgeball, whatever it is now?
That I don't know. That'll be the MVP discourse football weekend.
Right, because we'll be heading into. I don't actually know when they do the NFL honors. I just know it's in between now and the Super Bowl.
Well, that is part of what I'm thinking about. Sunday's pregame. Is it the last pregame of the year? Are we pregaming for the Super Bowl? And what
does the Super Bowl pregame?
I don't even know. We start.
What is that? We talk about line matchups, or do we just like?
I don't even know. We break down the drop from the punter to his foot. I mean, everything's on the table. The Super Bowl also. I was not kidding when I said I'm going to be emotional about this game, because the Super Bowl brings about people that are thinking of coming home to watch the AFC Championship game. If they make the Super Bowl, they'd want to come home and watch it with family that, they don't live here anymore, but I'm going to go home and watch it for this game. And, you think about family members or whatever. The Super Bowl is, when people say, I want one before I die. I mean, listen, we care about sports a lot. And to talk about a sports team accomplishing a goal before you die is very relatable. Lots of people think like that. It's not just the fringe. It's, I just want to see this happen. What would it be like? And that's kind of the thing I think of. Like, you've seen Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame and all that, right? Mm-hmm. The idea of the multiverse has kind of entered general conversation. There are multiple timelines. I'm not going to go too far with this, I promise. But I think about that stuff. I think about, there's one of them where the Bills are going to win this game. There's one where the Bills are going to lose this game. And, man, I hope we're on the one where they win it, because I want to see the Bills in a Super Bowl in my lifetime. There's winning it, and then there's just wanting to see them in it.
Yeah.
We got a random Rams-Bengals Super Bowl. We got that one.
Yeah.
Give me some Bills-Commanders.
Let's go.
Let's throw one in there and see what happens.
Don't give me Eagles-Chiefs on any planet. Right?
No, please no.
Never, man, for the Super Bowl. I mean, because the Bills are in it. This is the reason. I guess the Eagles Commanders play a little part too. There has never in my life been a more stark difference in excitement level for what the Super Bowl could be than Bills Commanders versus Eagles Chiefs. Eagles Chiefs sounds like the worst Super Bowl imaginable to me. Like, if you could have began the season, hey, what's the Super Bowl you'd want to see the least? Wouldn't Eagles Chiefs be up there?
Yes.
Maybe it would be number one for some people.
Right, Lions would have been cool.
Right. And like, hey, what if I give you Bills versus a rookie quarterback? Oh, it's like the best you could possibly do. Awesome. And I don't even know if that's just, here. Like, Buffalo is America's team right now. Everybody, I'm getting texts from, like, the PFF guy who books guests for us. Like, text me yesterday, like, man, I hope the Bills win. Just like everybody's like, I hope the Bills win on Sunday. Everybody wants the Bills to win on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think the Super Bowl everybody really wants is they really want the Bills and they want the rookie quarterback storyline going in. Sam Monson did what's the best storyline for each of the four teams. That's how you figure out who you want in the Super Bowl. So for the Bills, it would be chasing your first Super Bowl in franchise history and in the city's history and Josh Allen. Like, okay, that might be number one.
It's got to be number one. The other three franchises have all won it.
Right. So that's number one. Number two is Jaden Daniels becoming the first rookie quarterback to ever go to a Super Bowl. That would be pretty sweet.
It's pretty good.
Number three is the Chiefs going for a three-peat that's never been done.
Yep. And number four is just the Eagles exist.
Even Monson said, like, I can't. He broke that down. He's like, I can't come up with one for the Eagles.
Well, I
cannot come up with one for the Philadelphia Eagles.
We're talking to your brother Lou, who does the Locked On Eagles podcast at 9 o'clock, and one of the questions I have for him is, do the Eagles even like each other? Does anybody like each other? Are they hoping to win it and then fight?
Right. On the podium, they're going to be like wrestling the trophy away from each other.
Yeah. And their fans are, passionate.
Yeah, the
miserable but passionate.
The quarterback doesn't like the coach. The receiver doesn't like the quarterback.
The fans probably don't like the coach.
The coach doesn't like the fans.
The coach doesn't like the fans.
Like everybody's just always mad at each other. It seems.
Right. We'll get some calls in.
Before we do that, I did look up. So there's only four games this year the Bills tied in the turnover margin with their opponent, and one of them was the Ram game.
Okay.
They lost 44-42. One of them was the Miami 61-yard field goal Bass winner, 30-27. Another was the Baltimore game they got rolled, and then Arizona in the opener.
Okay.
So that's that. 4 times they tied the turnover margin this season.
Yeah.
And they went 2-2.
803-0550 to join us. How about this? We're starting the show in Brazil. Mitchell
let's go.
is in Sao Paulo, Brazil. What a start to Football Friday. Mitchell, good morning.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks for taking my call. I'm just going to come forth on Mafia. I'm a huge Bills fan, so I'm a little biased when I'm going to read you these stats, but I'm also the son of a mathematician, so I had to look at the math on it. And there's a nerd stat called referee-assisted scoring. So I looked up Kansas City, who kind of tops the charts. And then what that means is, like either on a 3rd and long, 2nd and 20, or something like that, either a pass interference, defensive holding, or roughing a passer occurred that assisted the score where they would have otherwise had to punt. Kansas City led that with 17, which means basically one score per game. And then concerning is they also had 3 game-winning drives with referee-assisted scoring. On the flip side of that, on the defense, you see the same numbers. And so basically taking away from that, you can expect to either get a field goal or touchdown given to the Chiefs and a field goal or touchdown taken away from the team they're playing. So, and then the more latent stat that needs to be concerned about that McDermott can take control over is ball placement. Like you saw in the Ravens game, anybody with a TV that hit Devo Rewind, Josh Allen was on the 1-inch or 2-inch line, and somehow his waist was on the 2-yard line, and they marked it at the 2. So maybe McDermott needs to get somebody that plays Madden and say, hey, let's challenge this, because the ball markings had been, kind of insidious. But here's the good news, because I don't want to be like all, down news. The referee crew that we have is actually a really good one. Mahomes is 6-5 with Blakeman. Blakeman calls 1/3 of the penalties that I've just talked about. And not only that, but Mahomes is undefeated with every other refereeing crew except for Hockley, where he's 10-2. So this is a major score if you want to say there's a chance of neutrality. But I would say, to pass on to McDermott, if it's 3rd and long, tell the defensive backs, do not grab any jerseys. Don't, hit Mahomes. Don't even tap on his shoulder, because I think the referees are maybe not Blakeman. He's got a pretty good record, but that's a nerd stat. I thought you guys would be interested. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah. Thanks, Mitchell. Tracking the refs.
I think the more we talk about the refs throughout the week, everybody talks about the refs, it can only do good things, because aren't the officials for the game, if anything, and probably nothing, but if anything, thinking, man, everybody on earth is thinking we're on the Chiefs side.
Well, I
is
think
that in the back of their heads when they enter the game, and like the ticky-tack call, like, oh, if I call this, the whole world's going to freak out because everybody thinks I'm on their side.
I think there's no denying that. Human nature. Even if you think, it's ridiculous, I would never do that. That's ridiculous. Just priming someone's brain for that could affect their behavior. I think that's very easy to get to that spot. I have seen tons about officiating and the Chiefs' record and these, advanced numbers about what the penalties are and how in their last 11 playoff games, they have not been the more penalized team in the last 11 in a row, and no team's ever had a streak even close to that.
Yep.
You want to say something about discipline, whatever you want. I mean, it would be more. What would surprise me is if you're the official in this game, it's not even about I got to be careful. I'm just not throwing flags. That's it. No one gets mad at anybody if there are no flags thrown in a game. How many flags were thrown in the Baltimore game? Was it 1 on the Bills? 1. It was a bad call on Deion Dawkins. 1 flag. So we look at that call, but if you were told a grand total of 3 flags are going to be thrown in the AFC Championship game, the complaining about officiating, sure, it could be a big moment, but it'll just die down. The Bills had 2 games this year where officials took over the game, and there were the most flags that have been thrown in any game this year.
And the Jet game is still the worst game.
The Jet game. Imagine the Jet game happens on this stage.
Please no.
The NFL would have an investigation.
Yeah, those refs would never, take them off big important games for the rest of their careers if you get that. Holy cow.
Yeah. Paul in Akron quickly before the break. Hey, Paul.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, I got a little dilemma with a buddy of mine. He is not a Bills fan. He doesn't like the NFL. He actually hates the Bills because of the stadium and the taxes and whatever, blah, blah, blah. I, on the other hand, he knows I'm a huge Bills fan, got season tickets. We're friends on Facebook, so he sees all my stuff that I put out there when I'm at the tailgate. I go camping. I used to be in the camper lot with you, Jeremy, until they shut it down. But long story short, before you break, he wants to make a bet with me. I told him no yesterday, but he says it's still open, and he's trying to troll me on Facebook saying that I don't have faith in my team. He's telling me that if the Bills win, I buy him a Bills jersey, and he roots for the Bills and puts it on his Facebook page. But if Kansas City wins, I've got to do the same thing in the Super Bowl. I am so hesitant to do this because I do not want my face on Facebook with a Kansas City jersey on. But I would love to see his face with a Bills jersey on, and everybody knows on Facebook what kind of a hater he is. So that's what I call him, a hater.
Yeah.
Hater. But what's your advice? What would you guys do? I just wanted to know, and I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks, Paul. Would you be willing to make a bet like that, where you have to wear a Chiefs? He's singing out of the roof of the Chiefs, not for life, but just in the next game. I just couldn't do it.
No, I couldn't.
I just couldn't do it. What am I gaining? What am I getting out of this? You root for the Bills?
I couldn't fake it for 3 hours rooting for the Chiefs. I couldn't do it. No.
Yeah,
I would take a picture with the jersey as part of the bet. Like, sure, it's embarrassing, and I wouldn't want to do it, but no, a 3-hour punishment of watching and rooting, no chance. No chance.
803-0550. If you're on hold, we'll get to your calls on the other side if you can hang with us. It's Jeremy and Joe. It's Football Friday, watching scenes of the rally downtown.
Yeah.
And what if they win? There's going to be a rally every day.
There really might
There will be a rally every day.
Yeah.
Where's the rally today? Let's go. We all just move to the steps of City Hall and live there for 2 weeks. Football Friday, the NFC Championship game approaches. It's Jeremy and Joe. You can give us a ring on anything really you hear. You want to bring it up, officiating, whatever. We're good for it all. It's Football Friday, brought to you by Selena Law, Car Crash, Call Selena, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
CallJed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game on Sunday at 6:30, just over 2 days away. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm Injured. For help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The Bills still dealing with Christian Benford being limited with his concussion. He's working through the protocol right now. No Taylor Rapp at practice. Matt Milano still limited. Taron Johnson limited after being a full participant on Wednesday. For the Chiefs, everybody was a full participant at their practice. Damar Hamlin named a finalist for AP Comeback Player of the Year, Joe Brady for Assistant Coach of the Year, and Josh Allen, of course, for MVP. Sabres lose last night, 5-2 to the Calgary Flames. It's another loss for the Sabres, and their third period woes returned, allowing 3 goals in the third to Calgary. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Mallenstein jumps into the space. Samuelson shot. That deflects. Scores! Sabres have tied it up here as they send bodies to the net, and that deflects past Wolf, and they're talking about who got it right now.
One of the moments of the game brought to you by Firth Jewelers. For the moments in your life, go forth to Firth. It's Matthias Samuelson and Tage Thompson scoring the Buffalo goals. For those moments of the game, Sabres lose in Calgary.
Offensive linemen don't have awards for being great. There's not a Protector of the Year award. I'm knocking at so many doors now to get this award going. I'm going to head spirit and make sure that this gets done before I'm done playing, because there's so many greats. If we have great quarterbacks, we have great running backs, we have rushing titles, we have quarterback passing titles. All those titles are reflections of the O linemen, which are the protectors.
Buffalo Bills left tackle and community asset, Deion Dawkins.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love Deion Dawkins. Protector of the Year. I'm into it. I'm ready for the debate shows to get after
Yell
it.
About
what does Protector of the Year
mean?
What does it really mean to be Protector of the Year? He had a perfect year blocking. Yeah, but his quarterback got hurt. How could he be a great protector? Anyway, Deion Dawkins. I love it. Let's do it. It's Football Friday, brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash, call Celino, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. You can catch us where you catch us, on the regular radio, stream us on television now, I guess. We're not on television.
Well, you could be on your television.
That's right, but we're not on television.
Because televisions have the Twitch app or the YouTube app.
Sure.
I often will watch things on YouTube on my TV.
Yeah.
So you could do that.
Cast things from phone to TV a lot. But we are not on TV. It's a very important distinction, because I saw yesterday someone suggested, like, you guys should smile more. It's like, easy. We're not on TV. TV people are good at smiling.
TV people have
That's
to
not
smile,
us.
I think, yeah.
You're just looking at us while we do the show, if you are.
This is our natural environment, not
right.
yeah.
That's right. Yes. If we were supposed to be on TV, maybe we would be. Whatever.
It's like the live stream of those zoo animals. Like, just like, hey,
Right.
just go watch the giraffes for a little while.
Speaking of which, the new thing, one of the new internet memes showing zoo animals, Josh Allen highlights. Have you seen that? Because it started a while back. Somebody in their car, there's a deer, and they just pull up on their phone Josh Allen highlights, and they show a deer Josh Allen highlights.
Yeah.
And yesterday the Bills leaned into that and showed Josh Allen deer highlights. It's really funny.
That's amazing.
Really funny. So anyway, good morning. Happy Football Friday. There's also a freighter stuck in the lake right now. And
yeah.
I am finding this to be a very healthy and good distraction from my stress about this game.
This vessel being stuck in the ice?
Yes, everybody's safe. It's not that uncommon for it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The Coast Guard's going to help free it. I just watched a time lapse of how they break the ice and get a freighter out.
It's like right off the coast of the city?
I guess so. I guess like right outside the river, you can see it.
Okay.
So I'm finding that to be a good distraction. Is someone on the freighter listening? And if so, 8030550.
Call in from the freighter. Freighter radio.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'm into it. Sal joins us at 7, Chris Brown at 8:30. Josh put together that Interstellar Open, and and there's Murph, right? Your Murph's call of the AFC Championship game. And like I said, like whether it's fans of a generation ago thinking about Van, or if it's Murph, and now Chris Brown, who will join us at 8:30, his first AFC Championship game on the call. And man, like it's a game that it's not the Super Bowl, but it is maybe the best NFL day of the year. Back-to-back high-stakes games to set up the matchup we'll talk about for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And sure, the Super Bowl is the culmination of all that, but just to make it, I know that's not the ultimate goal, but those 90s Bills were defined by winning this game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was still pretty darn good and a ton of fun.
And I do want to know what it would be like just to be in the game. Just to have the build up to it, because the Super Bowl still feels massive every year, even when they're not in it. So, like, what are your emotions when they're in the game and it's kicking off and like the spectacle of it? Because there's so much more dressing up of the whole game, right? Like they do multiple national anthems, right? And all the stars that do the national anthem are like Grammy winners. And then like, oh, there's the halftime show, and just everything feels bigger, obviously, than when it's at Arrowhead with that yellow lighting.
The yellow lighting? The lights
lighting.
are yellow?
Yeah. It's old school looking lighting.
Yeah.
If you will. It's not that bright.
Well, this is where I'm going to bring up the quick stat for you, because Mark Andrews had a pretty big drop last week. It has been proven the hardest place to catch a ball in the NFL is Arrowhead at night.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyreek Hill, he's talked about that before. And Chiefs receivers, remember last year the story of this Chiefs season was all of the drops from receivers? The lighting there is not the same as other places. It is a difficult place to catch a football at night.
Yep.
So store that away. Maybe one of their guys drops a ball. Maybe a Bills play, whatever. Justin in Utica's up next. Hey, Justin, good morning.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to say, with Pat Mahomes practically being synonymous with flopping now, I know Josh does it a bit too, and that's been talked about, but if you're going to get the penalty, if you're a defender and you got a beeline on the guy, why are you letting up? Blast him. Let him have it. At least make the penalty worth it. And Pat Mahomes has got himself to blame for that, in my opinion. He's flopped and complained and wailed and cried and gotten these calls. So if I'm a defender, why am I going to let up?
My only thing would be, Justin, what game situation is it worth the 15 yards and a first down? I mean, if you're suggesting if you hurt him, that changes the game. But, we did have a head coach suspended for a full season and a pretty big investigation on the idea of trying to hurt a player.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I get it. You don't want to get called for something when you didn't even get your money's worth.
Yeah. I wouldn't go near that, though. That, to me, is just inviting a lot of personal foul penalties. Mahomes, by the way, the stat was there are a lot of official stats being pointed out this week about the Chiefs. Warren Sharp had the one about last 11 games. The opponent hasn't been, had the penalty advantage one time. There also was that Mahomes' career average of postseason roughing the passer flags is 4 times greater than the average of active quarterbacks in the playoffs. So 0.12 per game roughing the passer flags is the average. Mahomes gets 0.412
in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, so he's getting
4 times as many roughing
the
passer
average
calls.
roughing the passer calls. It's another one of these official numbers that I've seen out there this week.
Trying to get me upset, aren't you? You're trying to get me mad ahead of time.
Again, no. I'm just trying to mess with the psyche of these refs on Sunday.
To the flopping point, I did see at Pro Football Talk that they will not, and this is kind of a strange way to say this, but they will not make a point of emphasis and tell officials to call flopping. You could call it as unsportsmanlike, but there will not be any sort of
There's no memo coming from the league that says...
Mahomes spoke on that and actually acknowledged that he should not have done that. He said, I would say the only one I felt like I probably did too much was the one on the sideline where I didn't get the flag. The refs saw it, and it didn't get a flag. I understood it immediately. No, I probably shouldn't have done that. My question is, why would he admit to maybe shouldn't have done that? He has nothing to lose. And, again, neither does Josh in this spot. But,
well, maybe that's him saying, I wouldn't do it this week.
Flop?
I mean, he's saying there, like, I shouldn't have done that. If he internally, it's like, yeah, that was bad. He's going to do it again?
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't saying I shouldn't have done that his priming of the officials? Oh, I've learned my lesson. I wouldn't flop again. So that when he does
he's
flop
doing
again,
the thing you're saying I'm trying to do, which is get in their heads.
Yes.
About what to call this week.
Yes. 803-0550. Wide open phone lines. If you want to give us a ring, Sal at 7. The news on the injury front is decent, right? Decent. Milano looked okay at practice. Christian Benford out there limited.
Just Rapp.
Which, I mean, I thought right away, I had multiple thoughts. Rapp left and it looked bad in the Baltimore game. And I thought two things when they said he was day-to-day. One, it could be really good news that it's not as bad as we thought. Or two, they're going to pretend he's going to play the whole week. Because what do you have to lose? Day-to-day. Everybody's day-to-day. He's getting treatment. He's not practicing. We'll say he's day-to-day because the last thing I want to do is tell the Chiefs that we have a safety issue.
Right.
So I'm going to say he's day-to-day. And they'll monitor that, and maybe they'll watch the injury on tape and all 22, and they'll have an idea. But I'd be definitely, if I'm the Bills, gamesmanship. We're not ruling anybody out of this game. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550 to join us. Jeremy and Joe, give us a ring. It is Football Friday here on WGR.
Football Friday.
Day, Buffalo Bills Football Friday, exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
You always remember the feeling of not pulling through. You know, that sticks with you for a while, and it really doesn't leave. But again, I think every year that you go through in this league, you learn more things about yourself, about your team, about the game of football. You know, we're just grateful and humbled to have another opportunity at it. It's another week that we get to play, because really there's only 4 teams playing right now. So we look at that and, you know, we just love the opportunity that we have.
Bills quarterback Josh Allen, time for improving the game plan. Brought to you by Bath Fitter. Improve your bath in one day with Bath Fitter. It just fits. So, what do you want to do? What do you want the Bills to do to improve the game plan?
Do what you did to Travis Kelce last time that kept him to 8 yards. Seems like a good place to start.
Yep.
Although ideally, you might not be able to do both these things. Do better than you did against Xavier Worthy in the first half of that game, because he was great in the first half. They might have already fixed it, right? Yep. Like the second half, maybe they made a correction because he had nothing in that second half. But the first half, he was great.
Hollywood Brown is back. He was not available in that first game. My improving the game plan for the Bills might be, they had a nice game plan. It might come down to Spencer Brown playing in this game, which he did not in the first, and run it better on first down when you run. Right? The Bills in that game did not get a ton of carries for James Cook because it wasn't really working. And the first matchup with the Chiefs was defined by converting 3rd and longs. Lots of them. So whatever. You have the exact same game and you win, great. But if I'm trying to find anywhere where they could have been better, Joe, be better on first down. Be better on first down. And you might have an easier time. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. That's improving the game plan. Connor in D.C. Hey, Connor, good morning.
Hey, guys. Good morning. First time calling in. Joe, we actually have a mutual Giants friend. But just giving you guys a call about, there was a storyline earlier in the offseason where the Bills were kind of, like McDermott and Bean were kind of pushing Josh Allen to take on more of a leadership role. And we didn't really know what that meant or like any specifics behind that or any context. And I think no matter what they did, you can kind of see how it's changed the team and changed Josh Allen. So, yeah, just wanted to give you guys a call about that as like a little reminder of, you know, stuff that happened in the offseason and, you know, how it's kind of affecting the team now.
Yeah. Yeah, the story, I remember at training camp, it was about Allen stepping up a little bit more. You know, as he started his career, he was surrounded by a lot of veterans already here, and maybe he was someone to defer. And they thought as part of moving on from a lot of players that they did, they would kind of open up space. You know, you could say create a vacuum, but whatever. Open up space for Allen as a leader to step into.
And it sounds like he's done that, I think. Is there any indication that he hasn't?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's different about it. You have a lot of his teammates talking about he's like one of their favorite teammates ever. He seems to be a super popular guy, like in the room, former players, whatever. But yeah, they opened up that space and he did that. 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. Thanks, Connor. Thanks for calling in. We'll get to more phone calls. Sal Capaccio, the Barnes Firm injury report, a weather update on what's going on in Kansas City, what to expect for Sunday's game. It is Football Friday. You can give us a ring, be a part of the show. We'd love to have you part of it. It's brought to you by Celino Law, Car Crash, Call Celino, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
Football Friday.
Line is Buffalo Bills General Manager Brandon Beane.
When the players call, when the coaches call, when the insiders call, the West Her Hotline, brought to you by the West Her Automotive Group. Welcome to West Her, New York. Sports Radio 550 WGR Buffalo and WKSE HD2 Niagara Falls, Buffalo, 98.5 FM.
An Odyssey sports station.
Broadcasting live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. Bills Chiefs. Wall-to-wall coverage of the AFC Championship game. Sunday from 10 a.m. till kickoff at 6:30 on the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR on the Odyssey app. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs, 6:30 Sunday in the AFC Championship. Winner goes to New Orleans. We'll have coverage starting bright and early at 10 a.m. here on WGR. The Barnes Firm Injury Report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Features Taylor Rapp still not on the field with the back/hip injury that he's been dealing with. Matt Milano, Taron Johnson, Christian Benford were all limited. Benford concussion. Johnson, who was not limited on Wednesday in their estimated report, has a neck and shoulder injury. Milano, biceps and hamstring. Those were the limited players. Deion Dawkins back on the field, full participant. And nobody for Kansas City was limited or not on the field. Elsewhere around the NFL, Liam Cohen is the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He had pulled himself out of the running, for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was the offensive coordinator of the Buccaneers. Cohen to Jacksonville after they fire their general manager. He had reportedly been having secret meetings with the Jaguars the last couple of days, and that's where he ends up going. Pete Carroll having talks with Jerry Jones about the potential of him becoming the Cowboys coach. Dallas is still looking for their Mike McCarthy replacement. Sabres lose last night, 5-2. They were tied going into the third, but they gave up 3 third-period goals. They fall to Calgary. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
It's all Bills all day. Buffalo Bills Football Friday, exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
With 36 seconds left, the Chiefs can celebrate. They're headed back to the Super Bowl for the second consecutive year. Mahomes in the gun, takes a snap, looks to throw, pumps once, fires towards the end zone, and it is caught. Touchdown, Kansas City. It is caught by Kelsey, and the game is over.
And there is the last kneel down, and that will do it. The remaining 25 seconds will tick away as the Bills are only left thinking about what could have been.
They didn't bring us here to change the past.
They didn't bring us here at all. We brought ourselves.
Now he's going to take it and run, and he's got the first down and more. 10, 5, and muscles his way into the end zone for an unbelievable 26-yard touchdown run through a hole and away and into the secondary. 40, 30, 20. They're not going to get him. James Cook goes 65 yards for a touchdown. Here's the snap, fakes the handoff, back to pass, has time, looking deep over the middle, wide open is Andrews. Gets away from the tackle, but the ball is out, and Terrell Bernard forces the fumble and scoops up the football.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe on the home of the Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550.
Football Friday, brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash, call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way. Meeting number 4 in the postseason between this version of the Bills and this version of the Chiefs. Somewhat different than their previous versions.
We're not counting Montana.
No.
Chiefs games.
I don't think so. No. Allen v. Mahomes. Again, Sunday, 6:30. Jeremy and Joe. Join us on the phones if you like. Watch the stream. Tune in. Whatever you need to do. Sal Capaccio joins us on the Western Hotline. Sal, good morning.
Good morning. So this will be the 6th overall. I know you guys are talking about this version.
I don't know if you saw this week, I did a little tally and I tweeted out the opponents the Bills have played the most ever since the merger. AFC became AFC, right? AFL became AFC. This is the most, right? I mean, do you guys know the only other team they've played 5? This will be 6 for them. They have one other team they've played 5 times in the playoffs since the merger.
Ooh, they've played...
I want to say Miami.
I was going to guess Pittsburgh.
That's right, Jeremy.
Okay, Miami?
No, Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh is 4.
Okay.
And then you have a few teams with 3, including the Bengals and the organization of the Titans/Oilers, which, obviously we know one is the greatest comeback and one is home run throwback.
Yeah. Well, Sal, we're 2 days out now. You're gearing up for a trip to Arrowhead. I know you've mentioned this week on the Extra Point Show, this is kind of like, this is your first trip to Arrowhead for an AFC Championship game, because in 2020, you guys were not on location. So, while the Bills are going into a very familiar setting, there are still things that are different about it. And, Sunday should prove to be incredible.
Yeah, that's right. And, I've thought about these games a little bit. Thought about that 2020 game. And, we weren't there. Like I said, I've asked other media members what it was like being there on site for the game. That was the COVID year, so the radio crew didn't travel. We were back in Buffalo. And, when I think back, and you guys are playing some of these clips from the last several years, and I know the one you opened up with was Murph in the following year, the divisional round. That 2020 team just the Chiefs were just a better team all year. They were a machine in 2020. Remember that? They come to Buffalo in COVID, and the Bills are like, hey, we're going to let you run for 300 yards. You're not going to throw on us. You know what I mean? And they did. I mean, they didn't want them to run for 300 yards, but that team was just kind of not quite ready in their development to be on that stage compared to the Chiefs. The Chiefs were just so good. And then 2021, we know that the Bills had their chance. And it was just a heavyweight fight, and they were there, and we all know what happened with 13 seconds left. I think from really that point on, they've been neck and neck. They've been both able to win, and for whatever circumstances, the Bills haven't, and we could always dissect those. We've done that, and the Chiefs have, and they've also lost once at home. I just feel that this time, I keep thinking about this team and how this team's ready for this. I don't know if it's going to turn out they're going to win. Of course not, right? They could go and we could have another heartbreak. It could be a few bad bounces, bad calls, whatever. A couple turnovers that they uncharacteristic. I just feel like this team, compared to that team and where each is, this one for the Bills is so much. It's ready for this moment and this time to be in this position. And I like the way I've kind of seen this development all week in my own head, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you sense a difference at all in the attitude and the confidence maybe of the players that have been a part of those losses as opposed to some that maybe haven't, or some that, that would mostly be rookies? But I mean even beyond last year, Sal, like the AFC title game in 20 and then the 13-second game, like not a lot, or I should say a lot, maybe it's just not all. How many of these guys have actually been around for all of them?
Right. I mean, I was listening to Khalil Shakir yesterday, and I'm thinking he wasn't even here for that 21 game. He wasn't on the team yet. I wasn't drafted. 21. So, yeah, right? Because 22 was his first year. This is his third year. Sorry. So I'm thinking, right, because he was drafted later that year. Like, there's a lot of really core players who just haven't been a part of it. That was... it was 3 years ago now, and 4 years ago for the last time the AFC Championship. And, Von Miller wasn't here. And a lot of the core guys who were here are not here anymore. And I know that Micah has come back on the practice squad, but no Jordan and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Mitch Morse and that group. Even, go down the depth chart of Saran Neal and guys like that who aren't here anymore. Do I sense something different, Joe? I think only in this way, which is the Bills really have taken this week-to-week approach all year. And it's not that they haven't in years past, but you really get the sense that nothing has changed this week when it comes to that, right? Like, they're just really approaching this game like they have every single game all year, trying to go 1-0, as Josh always says. And I know you can't quantify that. I get it. And they all know what's on the other side. I mean, Spencer Brown had the quote of the week. Spencer Brown was asked, have you thought about the two extremes of winning and losing? He said, well, one will be a really big celebration. The other is me with a 24-pack by myself, right? I mean, like, they know, right? Then someone else on Twitter joked and said, well, I guess that means 24-pack by yourself either way because of a celebration. Maybe that's what it is. Right? So I love that. But, I don't I know that they understand the gravity of it. They really do. But I just feel that they have taken this really calm, collected, deep, exhale approach to every week, and they're not tight and wound up and thinking about these games in years past and these clips that you played and things like that. And I think that's healthy, and I think that permeates from a lot of the stuff we've talked about with Sean McDermott specifically over this past year, to be honest with you.
So let's get to the Barnes Firm Injury Report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The three big names we were watching, Rapp, Benford, and Milano. What's the latest?
Yeah, so Taylor Rapp hasn't practiced all week, and I think that's not a good trend for him with his hip injury. And we know that, he was in a lot of pain and was carted off. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Sean McDermott comes out on the Extra Point show today and rules him out. I also wouldn't be surprised if he said, yeah, he's going to do some work today and we'll see. But not trending well from that regard. People could check out. I have some video on my social media feed of Matt Milano yesterday doing some work during stretching, running around. He was officially listed as limited with not only the hamstring but the biceps. But everybody, just so people know, when you see that, the biceps is just there because it's still from before, because when you get treatment on it and he's wearing his brace, that's not a new injury. It's just something that gets listed because of that. But the hamstring is the one you're really, thinking about here and worried about, I guess. But I wouldn't be at this point with him being limited 2 days in a row, him looking like, out there, he's running around. Terrell Bernard said, he felt that Matt's been able to do everything he's supposed to do when we talked to him, so that's good. Christian Benford also limited again in concussion protocol, but he did practice yesterday, red non-contact jersey and the Guardian cap. Exact same situation as Ray Davis last week, if you think about the timeline. And Ray Davis wound up playing on Sunday, so maybe that's, encouraging for him to get through the protocol. And then Taron Johnson's the only other one. He was estimated as a full participant on Wednesday at the walkthrough, but he was limited yesterday with the shoulder. I wouldn't worry too much about that. He was out there at practice. We watched him, and a lot of times it's because, hey, they estimated he'd be full, but when they got to practice, they said, let's just back off on him a little bit. He had the injury in the game, and we just want to make sure he's going to be good to go. So those are the ones that, we'll be watching for.
What do you expect Milano's, assuming he would play, his main responsibility to be in this game? Because he's covered Kelsey a lot throughout his career, but they also just deployed him, Sal, as a spy against Lamar Jackson, and I feel like it went pretty well. Like, Jackson didn't run a lot, and Mahomes, maybe it's a different type of threat, his running around, but he has burned the Bills in the past when it comes to his scrambling.
Yeah, that's true. And, that he loves to just steal a couple first downs a game with his legs, even on long, third and long. And that's killed the Bills. It's killed a lot of teams over the years. I went back last night and rewatched the game from Week 11. Matt Milano wasn't there, as you know. Terrell Bernard was actually used as a spy quite often. He actually had a sack as a spy. Bills have some options here. And if they want to, they'll probably mix it up. Joe, I don't think you'll see one specific guy as the spy all the time. I think they will have a spy in those situations. This is not a Lamar Jackson situation where at any moment he could take it out of the belly and run. But as you said, on passing downs, third downs, you're going to have somebody account for him. And I do think that could be Matt Milano at times. I think that could be Terrell Bernard at times. And, Milano has done a good job generally throughout his career. I know, that it's not always been perfect against Kelsey or other tight ends. And the Bills did a really good job on Kelsey last time, and there was no Milano. The guy that hurt the Bills was Noah Gray. He had 2 touchdown catches last time. One was actually on a little bit of a busted play, and Mahomes got out. So, yeah, I think they'll have a plan where they'll mix it up, to be honest with you. And, we'll see what that looks like. I wonder how they defend Kelsey. Is it with Taron Johnson? Is it, in a zone, bracketing a little bit? Is it with Matt Milano a little bit more? Even Terrell Bernard. I think they'll mix it up a lot.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. So, as you talk about how they approach this week, going 1-0, workmanlike, have you sensed any sort of tone from Sean McDermott? I mean, he said this week, you don't win if you're scared. He's talking about how there's a clip I watched. He's talking about how their process works and how what I'm getting at is it feels like he knows and is leaning into how big this is. And I wonder how much McDermott feels like this is a redemption for him, to win there
and to make this step. I know he's not one to make it about himself, but last week was maybe the biggest game of his career, and now this one is the biggest game of his career.
Yeah, it's a tough question, Jeremy. I mean, I'm not inside his head, and he gives you so little, right, when you talk. But from what I know about Sean, I've talked to him. He's aware. I mean, he knows, what people say. I mean, he gets told those things by people around him, and he understands. I also know he's very confident in, what he does and how he approaches his job and how he prepares his team. And I think that, he has confidence in his players. I remember when they won in Week 11, and Sean went on the next week with Chopin Bulldog. He was actually on Monday with Chopin Bulldog. And Mike's first question to him was, Sean, were you confident going into the game? And Sean, without hesitation, said, I'm always confident in our team. Like, it was great. Like, it was really cool. Like, he's, he didn't waver. And I just think that he brings that confidence and belief all the time, because I think that he really, he can, the words trust the process and all those other words, they can ring hollow if you don't truly believe in them. But he does. And that's how he's approached his job since day one. And we all know that there's been some playoff failures. There's no doubt. And I get it. And that's why he gets criticized and the criticism he gets. But that from 2017, since he arrived here, I've said this on the radio many times. That's the one thing that always stood out to me at the end of that year. When the Bills went to the playoffs, I went on radio shows and people said, hey, what's the difference? Like, what's Sean McDermott like? This got to be wild. Like, wow, the Bill 17 years and, oh, my God, it's got to be a party in Buffalo. And I go, it's not. It's consistency. Like, he's always just been consistent. So despite the past playoff failures, despite the big stage, I'm not saying he's not aware, Jeremy, of all those things you just said. I just think Sean McDermott has the same consistent approach and believes that that's the best way to get the job done.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Sal, to the matchup. Do you have any one player you're thinking about here for X factor? I mean, Allen is, of course, the main character offensively, but what's the other matchup that you like, offense versus the Chiefs' defense, who they kind of lean into? We know everybody eats is, of course, going to be there, but is there any one player you think has a bigger role to play this week?
A bigger role to play. I'm going to say it's somebody on the D-line, I think, and I don't know who that is, because we talk about everybody's. Are you talking about just offense or defense?
No, you can take defense if you want. That's fine.
Okay, because I just think I watched the Chiefs' offense, and they've struggled to run the ball. They at times they can hit some runs, right? They haven't had a running back go over 60 yards since the week after the Bills game, Week 12 against Carolina. In fact, the Bills game, I think it was that week, 68. But even then. But their offensive line has been the talking point all year. We've seen Mahomes get pressured and have to scramble around and make plays off script, which he does. We saw him get pressured and sacked a couple of times here in Buffalo. We saw him get pressured into an interception here in Buffalo. And I just think that somebody in that D-line's got to be able to win their matchup consistently and become a factor in this game. Like, I think by the third quarter, I want to hear Chris Brown saying, wow, like Von Miller's he's been great today and he's really impacted the game, or Ed Oliver has really impacted the game. And I just think that there's a chance for that to happen. And if that doesn't happen, that is not going to be good for the Bills. We have had how many years in a row here of us on a Monday after the Bills season ends go, they didn't get anything from their D-line, right? I mean, like, that's just been the issue. It's why they went out and got Von Miller after the 13 seconds game. And then against Cincinnati, there was just nothing there, even a banged-up Cincinnati line. Last year in the playoffs, they couldn't really get to Mahomes. So I think that's a big difference. I think on the offensive side, again, I'm going to say, like, we don't know, right, who the guy is going to be. For some reason, Curtis Samuel is sticking out in my mind because he had a good game against them last time.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if there's a matchup there they like for a guy who's healthier now, who they really had this vision for that didn't work out, but now we're starting to see him get a little bit more involved.
I like that answer a lot. I mean, it's pretty far down the depth chart, in terms of X factor, and if he ends up having a big game, the Bills will look like geniuses, but they brought him in, Sal, clearly with the idea that he would be a big part of their offense. And whether it's an injury early in the season or they just couldn't quite find spots for him or a role for him, he has carved out a little bit of a spot here where if he were to be the difference maker, it wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world. He certainly has the skill set for it, and his year has kind of been defined by not stepping into that role. And Josh talked about him this week, saying that, once he got fully healthy, it became a different kind of story. So I think Curtis Samuel could certainly be a part of what they do this week.
for sure. We last week, I mean, I totally was wrong. I thought the perimeter was where the Bills would attack. I thought Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper would really kind of be factors, maybe especially Amari. I mean, they didn't do anything last week statistically because that's kind of the beauty of the Bills' offense, right? We just don't know where it's going to come from. Let's remember last time they played, there was no Dalton Kincaid. And there's been some times this year where I think tight ends have had a little success against the Kansas City Chiefs. So does Dalton Kincaid come into play now? We know Dawson Knox has had, a few big games against Kansas City. He's been a go-to guy for Josh. So you never know who to pinpoint. Think about James Cook out of the backfield, down the seam last year, that touchdown that he scored. There's somebody there that they're probably saying, like, that's going to be the matchup. And maybe not. Maybe the Bills, like, hey, all year it's been pick the open guy. I get it. But there's got to be a matchup somewhere. Maybe that's dictated by where Trent McDuffie is on the field, right? I've gone all this way and not even talked about Khalil Shakir. Maybe that's, hey, he's the reliable guy. And he had a nice game the last time they played. And maybe that's where they look to this time.
Yeah, whoever McDuffie, I wonder how they use him. He can play in the slot, Sal, and also on the outside. That's what he did last week. Like, he followed Nico Collins wherever he went. Like, oftentimes when guys shadow, sometimes you won't see them follow him into the slot. Like, McDuffie will do that. And maybe that's what the Chiefs do with Shakir in this game. But I don't know. Like, Watson's back for them, which is why, like, I kind of think about how much man the Chiefs run, and you're right to point out last week, like, I was the same way. I thought, okay, this is how you attack the Ravens. This is what they'll do. And instead, they went right at the Ravens' strength, which is run defense, and that's how they won the game. So, that being said, like, if I'm looking at the weaknesses of the Chiefs' offense, Sal, and if they're going to run man coverage, I got to figure out who beats man. And like you said, like, I feel like Shakir and Samuel might be my top two guys for that right now. Like, even these Cooper plays that we've seen, like, he's not really running wide open. They're more contested plays.
Right. Yeah, you're right. And, I mean, we know Keon Coleman can win man in a certain way, right? It's not because of the separation. It's because he can make, plays down the field because of his size, his body control. Could be a play or two from that. Joe, we talked about it earlier this week. Yesterday, you and I talked about how if you can stay out of third and long, that would really help, because you go back and watch that game. They had to make a lot of plays in third and long, and that's not a great recipe. They made the plays, but that's not a great recipe, especially on the road when the crowd is really loud and Josh has to check to a play. Like, you got to stay out of those situations this week. To me, one of the differences, and we talked about this, Joe, and I asked you, and you have the numbers. I think you texted me so we can look at that, because I asked you, Joe, what is the Chiefs EPA per play against the run in weeks 15 on? They just have been different against the run. They haven't been the same team. Now, it could be because, hey, they kind of had the one seed a little bit locked up, not officially. Maybe they're doing some things differently. I don't want to say like, oh my God, there was some formula that everybody found to run against them. But it feels like you're able to run a little bit more lately against them than earlier in the year when the Bills really did struggle when they tried to run. Plus, the Bills didn't have Spencer Brown. So, stay out of those third and longs. And if you can keep these, you can get 4 or 5 yards on, your first down and then second down or whatever, and just get first downs early on, or keep it in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. It will just go such a long way for this.
Yeah, if that number was the EPA per play since week 15, the Chiefs are 21st rush defense, and the Bills are the 4th best rush offense. And last week, Houston was able to run the ball on them a little bit. And that's not a great offensive line at all in Houston.
Yeah.
No, I will say one of the reasons why they did run the ball, Joe Mixon did a lot of his own. He broke a lot of tackles. But we know, the Bills can do that, right? But you're right, no doubt. They had some success running the ball. The biggest thing that the Chiefs did against the Texans was their pass rush. But I don't know what to read into that, because the Texans' O-line cannot really pass protect very well. You know what I mean? Like, the Chiefs really got after. And, the Bills have been so good at protecting Josh this year, and he's been so good at protecting himself and not taking sacks. Like, I think for the Chiefs to get to him, they're going to probably want to blitz a little bit, and that could play into the Bills' hands. But, man, that is a very big key. Like, can the Chiefs get pressure on Josh? They haven't been a great team at getting a ton of pressure this year and getting sacks. But last week they got to C.J. Stroud a lot, but I don't know. Is that just because of the O-line the Texans have?
Sal Capaccio, he's got the Extra Point Show coming up. Sal, the forecast for Kansas City looks like a nice night, right? 30 degrees-ish. Not windy, not expected to rain, just a non-weather game. And, here we go. So coming up on the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show, will you talk to Pat Hammer, get the latest from him, and also...
I will. We'll get Pat Hammer. And I know a lot of people are headed to Kansas City from Buffalo and other places to go to the game. So we'll give you a weather report if you're heading out today or tomorrow for the game on Sunday, obviously. He'll join me at 11:30. A little early for Sean McDermott today, I'm told, 10:45-ish. So be ready in the first hour for Sean McDermott for our weekly injury report for the game.
Do we know when they announce uniforms?
They already did.
Did I miss that?
The Bills are wearing white tops, white bottoms, and blue socks.
Okay.
And I don't think, Joe, Jeremy, I don't think that they've worn blue socks with those this year at least. I do not remember blue socks
ever doing it.
Right.
with all white uniforms.
I can't remember the last time they did that at all. Because the 13-second game, they're just all white, right? That's Stormtroopers?
Yes. Stormtroopers is all white, blue with blue socks with white. And I want to call those the fine china because, blue and white. That's what it is.
The fine
china. Time to bust out the fine china for the AFC Championship game.
All right.
Sal will be listening 10 o'clock.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550 to join us. It is Football Friday. Our thanks to Sal for jumping in. He'll, of course, be on at 10 o'clock. We'll be back in a snap. That's brought to you by Snapdragon Apples, official apple of the Buffalo Bills.
Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe, live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
2 days away from the AFC Championship. Bills and Chiefs at Arrowhead, 6:30 kickoff in Kansas City. We'll have coverage starting at 10 a.m. on WGR. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. 3 Bills were limited at practice. Christian Benford, Taron Johnson, Matt Milano. Taylor Rapp not participating. And Deion Dawkins was back after missing practice sick on Wednesday. Nobody missing practice or limited for the Chiefs. They are completely healthy going into this game, other than the guys they have on IR like McCole Hardman and Rashee Rice. To the coaching news in the league yesterday, Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator of the Bucs, is going to Jacksonville to take the Jaguars head coach job, which further indicates that the reason he had pulled himself out of the running earlier in the week was because of the GM Trent Baalke. The Jags fired Trent Baalke, and Cohen is going there. He will be in collaboration with the owner on who the Jags hire as their new GM. Pete Carroll having conversations with Jerry Jones. He's a candidate for the Cowboys head coach job at this point. Sabres lose last night 5-2 in Calgary. They gave up 3 third-period goals to the Flames. They have one more game left on this West Coast trip. They'll be in Edmonton tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Here's Samuelson. Another shot. Scores! Samuelson again with a shot, and Tage Thompson may have deflected this one. Sabres are up 2-1.
One of the moments of the game brought to you by Firth Jewelers. For the moments in your life, go forth to Firth. Sabres fall in Calgary. Tage Thompson, Matthias Samuelson. The goals in the loss. Next up, right back to it against Edmonton on this trip.
Kind of reminds me of Super Bowl 25, where I was with the Giants, and we went out to San Francisco. We're also on their way to a three-peat, and then, we upset them with a field goal at the end of the game and ended up going on to beat Buffalo in Super Bowl 25 in Tampa. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on the home team. If the teams are close, I'm not sure the visitor doesn't have the advantage. If you have the best team, play at home and win.
Bill Belichick. The Giants, on their way to Super Bowl 25, knocked off a Niners team that had won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row and looked unbeatable. The Giants, along the way in that game, knocked out the starting quarterback, Joe Montana, and forced a fumble of Roger Craig that turned it over, and they won on 5 field goals. And that's one of the first games I remember, by the way.
Yeah? That NFC Championship?
Yeah.
You would have been a Giants fan.
Yes. I was a Giants fan.
Brutal.
I'm sorry. I was a Giants fan. I was 12.
What's the worst team in sports?
I was 12.
Giants. All right, it's fine.
Yeah. Anyway.
People from your hometown were mostly Giant fans?
Sure.
Or was it mixed?
Probably a mix. I'm 2 hours from here and further away from New York. But, yeah, I grew up a Giants fan. I'm sorry. Not the day to bring that up, Joe. But, I made the trade, and the Giants won 2 Super Bowls since I left, and I don't care about those Super Bowls, so it makes you feel better.
One difference of that game, I'm looking right now, was the expectation of the game and the spread. The Giants were an 8-point underdog in that game.
Wow.
Like, one team, that was an upset, right? And did the Giants go in with the backup quarterback? Was Hostetler in already?
Yes.
Okay.
Sims got knocked out in the last game or 2 games from the end of the season. Yeah, there was a whole postseason with a backup quarterback.
Look at this box score, by the way. 1 touchdown the whole freaking game and 1,000 field goals. Right, so it's an upset. It's kind of, I don't know. It seems different. This is more, Belichick even says it there. If you're the best team and you're at home, you got to win. Are we sure Kansas City's the best team? I would say they're not the best team in this game. They're favored because they're at home. If they're not at home, I guess it would be even because now Vegas is 1.5 difference.
Are they favored because they're at home? Yes. Are they favored, though, because they always win in this spot? Isn't that a part of it?
I'm sure it's a part of it, but I would guess that if this was... Had they stuck a couple years ago with, we're going to have neutral site championship games now, and this game was in Atlanta on Sunday, I bet it would be a pick'em.
How funny. Remember the panic that, they might think about doing that. Like, no, they're not. They're not going to ever think about neutral site. They're not going to make more money by doing that.
Right.
They never.
Well, they never even got the trial.
Right. And even if they had, they would have been. They weren't about to do that.
But if this game on Sunday was in Atlanta between these two teams, I think it would be absolutely even. Pick'em game. Nobody's favored.
Speaking of Atlanta, Syracuse football schedule just came out. Their kickoff game against Tennessee in Atlanta.
Wow, it's a big game, actually.
Yeah, not bad.
Neutral site
kickoff classic
game against an SEC team?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Syracuse, Tennessee in Atlanta, August 30th.
Wow.
Yeah, the Syracuse group chat went off last night about, are we going to go to Atlanta? And my answer was, I need to see the schedule first because Notre Dame is on the schedule, and I want to go to Notre Dame.
I saw, maybe this is that same week, the week 1 college football schedule came out. Belichick's first game as a college head coach is going to be the Monday night after all the other teams play on, Thursday and Saturday?
Yeah.
And it'll be Monday night, TCU at North Carolina.
That is if he coaches that game. Which
he signed his contract this week.
Oh, he finally signed it?
He finally signed it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He put pen to paper, which
sure
I didn't even know he hadn't done.
Right.
He agreed 2 months ago, and he just signed the contract?
The whole thing is fishy. Everything about it.
So what was he looking? He was talking to NFL, or not even talking. He wanted an NFL job the whole time?
Yes, probably.
And he didn't get one? So then he signed?
Yep. 803-0550, it is Football Friday.
I mean, the Cowboy job is still available.
If he wants that. Yeah. You think Joe Brady's going to get a head coaching job? Another one's off the board with Jacksonville. We're down to the Saints.
I feel better. I thought Jacksonville was a good chance. But it's, to me, Saints are bust now, right? He's not going to be the Cowboys head coach.
Right. Who are the Saints candidate? They wanted to talk to Aaron Glenn again, and that didn't happen because he took the Jets job.
When we had Benjamin Albright on, didn't he say Glenn heavy favorite? I guess if it's not Glenn, Brady, that would be the spot.
Yeah.
They want to talk to Kellen Moore again. So, yeah, I'd be a little worried about New Orleans. He's got ties there. His first job in the NFL. He's made a name for himself at LSU. I would be a little worried. There was a rumor yesterday about Derek Carr being a trade target for the Giants.
Interesting.
So if you could trade Carr away, then maybe you could pick your own quarterback. That might be a good thing, right? I can get rid of Carr, get rid of that contract.
Yep.
I guess actually, let me bring that back. Wasn't quite a trade rumor. Jordan Renan of ESPN listed it as a possible QB option for the Giants. So he didn't say that they've talked or anything. But I'd be worried about Brady going to New Orleans. Yes.
Get some calls in if you want to talk to us about this game. Your feeling on it, what it would mean to you. I mean, the Bills are on the doorstep of the Super Bowl. And I'm just texting friends what's everybody doing for this game? I haven't even really brought it up to people. I kind of still don't know.
I think that means you deep down want to do the Howard and just be in a bunker by yourself.
I don't think I want to do that because, what happens if Tyler Bass kicks from 42 to win it at the buzzer? I'm going to run out my door and just shout in the streets.
Would you take that?
Yeah. Would I take a 42-yard kick to win?
Not
would I take a 42-yard kick to win it?
42 yards to win it. Would you take it?
Yeah. I think I would.
Wow. That's probably a pretty good number for that,
I think I would.
Would you take 42 yards from Bass to win the game right now?
Mark in Coconut Creek is up. Hey, Mark. Good morning.
Definitely don't want to come down to a 42-yarder with Bass, so maybe a 41-yarder.
All right.
So my feeling on this game is I see it like high-stake games of chicken between, McDermott and the Walrus and, Josh and Mahomes and, like Jenga almost. Whoever makes that mistake, it's going to be paramount to, keep within your game plan. And hopefully the game doesn't get too big for us like it did Baltimore last week and we dropped the ball all over the field. But I just feel like one of the other big differences now with the dog father, McDermott, running the show and more involved in the strategy and not calling that defense. I just feel like it's a little different feel going into this game. So also, it'd mean a lot to me. It's my birthday, so, big party at the house. And, let's go Bills. And hopefully on Monday we're talking about the Super Bowl. So you guys have a great week. Stay warm. I know it's cold down here in Coconut Creek, Florida today. So
yeah, thanks, Mark.
Show, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, snow on the beaches down there, I saw in Florida.
The concept of coming in Monday and talking about the Super Bowl.
Well, we'll talk about them being in the Super Bowl, but if they win it, it's celebrating beating Kansas City, right? Because we'll have 2 weeks to talk about whoever they're playing, obviously.
Yes.
It'll be they finally did it. They finally did it. They beat Kansas City.
But I'm not one that thought they needed to beat the Chiefs on the way to the Super Bowl for it to feel right. It, of course, lines up that way.
It just, you know why more and more, it's 7 straight AFC Championship games for them. Like, it's more, to me now, your odds, the way things have gone, of ever getting to the Super Bowl without beating Kansas City just seem like impossible. Like, you have to play them every year. Right? Every path the Bills would have ever had to the Super Bowl since they got great would go through Kansas City. So in that way, you do have to prove you could beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah,
because you're just never going to get a path that doesn't include them.
Right. There was no year where it would have not involved them. When they lost to the Bengals went on and played the Chiefs.
Right. So you would have played at Arrowhead.
Yeah. You would have had to go through them every single year. Yep.
So in that way, you kind of have to prove you could do it.
I just find myself, I know the quarterbacks don't play each other, and I know it'll be unfair to just, quarterback wins, whatever QB wins as a stat. I find myself just thinking over and over, like, come on, Josh, like, just do it. Just find a way, the way that he finds a way so often. And I just can't imagine, we talk about pressure a lot, and there's good pressure and there's bad pressure. There's responsibility, and then there's freaking out because you have a big play in the moment. Like, Mahomes, how much pressure is really on Patrick Mahomes? Belichick at the start of this segment said, more pressure on the home team. You can't convince me they have more pressure on them than the Bills. They're going for greatest team of all time status. If they don't get that, what are they? One of the greatest teams of all time for having won 3 out of 4. What does Josh Allen have on him? The weight of an entire mafia, Bills Mafia, hoping he can deliver them to the promised land. And that's good pressure and responsibility. I don't think he's not up for it. I just think there is I can't even imagine having that much responsibility for Allen and what he has with him, basically, on his right arm. Like, do it, man. And his legs. Anyway, 803-0550.
I had to rephrase the poll on Twitter that I put up because everybody thought that I meant, would you take the Bills winning on a Bass field goal? And then I'm like, 90, of course. Who's going to say no to that? Here's how I'm putting it. 28-27 Chiefs, 1 second to go. Here comes Tyler Bass to attempt a 42-yard field goal. You signing up? You're saying yes?
I'm saying yes. Yep. 803-0550 break time. More your calls. We're wide open from here till 8:30. Chris Brown jumps in. Super Great American Football Friday frenzy. We will remember some Chiefs, too. I don't think we're stopping that. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Friday, exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
So Mark Andrews posted on Instagram, as I kind of expected, many probably did. Eventually he'll address what happened, and he wrote about it. Quote, I'm absolutely gutted by what happened on Sunday. I'm devastated for my teammates, my coaches, and Ravens fans. I pour every ounce of my being into playing at the highest level possible because I love my team and the game of football like nothing else. That is why it's taken me until now to collect my thoughts and address this publicly. I don't know that you'd call it a trend for athletes to do this, but
I would say it's a trend.
Yeah?
You're seeing it more and more.
Well,
Where
the ability to get your message out on social media does give athletes that avenue, and I just don't have any problem with it. Like, it's the worst moment of my life. I'm going to take 2 days, and I'm going to write about it when I feel ready. So, anyway, he did thank everybody. Despite the negativity, I've seen heartfelt love and encouragement, including from those who have generously donated to the Breakthrough T1D organization. Even when the moment seems darkest, perspective can reveal that there's still a lot of light in this world. I'm now going to do my part to bounce back and contribute to it. Hashtag God bless. So Mark Andrews, who had himself a rough game, all-time great for the Ravens. I mean, he's a retired number candidate guy, right? Like, he's an all-time great who has that on the resume, and you feel for him. Wide open when we get back. We have some callers we will get to. Stick with us, Jeremy and Joe. It's Football Friday. Ready to chat about this game. Get your vibe check, your confidence level, all of it. Football Friday, brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash, call Celino, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
Just Call Jed Studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. Bills Chiefs. Wall-to-wall coverage of the AFC Championship game. Sunday from 10 a.m. till kickoff at 6:30 on the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR on the Odyssey app. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs on Sunday in the AFC Championship. 6:30 kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium. We'll have coverage starting at 10 a.m. here on WGR. The Bills injury report looking okay as the week progresses here. The Barnes Firm injury report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. Christian Benford, Taron Johnson, Matt Milano, all limited at practice, while Taylor Rapp was still not on the field. He was called day-to-day on Monday by Sean McDermott. He has not practiced yet. Deion Dawkins back as a full participant after being sick on Wednesday. No injuries to watch for Kansas City. Elsewhere around the NFL, Liam Cohen is taking the head coach job in Jacksonville. That comes after he had pulled himself out of the running earlier in the week. The Jags fired their head coach, or their general manager, and now Cohen is going back to Jacksonville with a GM vacancy, and he can help pick who that will be. Pete Carroll talking with Jerry Jones. He is now a possible replacement for Mike McCarthy in Dallas. Sabres lose last night by a score of 5-2. They were tied going into the third. They gave up 3 third-period goals. And next up is tomorrow, last game of their West Coast trip. They'll be in Edmonton for a 4 o'clock puck drop. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Catch Sal Capaccio. He takes you behind the scenes on Bills Championship Game Day with his all-access Facebook Live from Kansas City on WGR's Facebook page, presented by Corona Extra. Touchdown to the fine life with Corona Extra for the fans who never lose.
It's all Bills all day. Buffalo Bills Football Friday, exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
AFC Championship game, I remember that we lost, and I remember what it felt like. And I remember, after talking to Coach earlier today, that we now have been reminded that none of that has to do with this one.
I'm just speaking just for me personally. Playing the game and I watched the confetti fall for the opposing team, and I can say how that felt, and I don't want to feel it again.
I don't even think anybody necessarily even looks into the past. I think this team this year is really good at just being in the moment, in the present moment.
It's a mindset like we've talked about numerous times in here. There's some truth to that. In order to win, you can't be afraid to lose.
Here's the snap, and they throw a quick hitter to Coleman, who catches it over the head of Woolen for a touchdown. Back to pass, pocket collapsing, steps up in the pocket and throws. It's intercepted by Taylor Rapp right at midfield. Takes the snap, quick hitter, thrown behind, but somehow caught, and now lateral to Allen, and reaching for the pylon. Are you kidding me? It's a touchdown.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe on the home of the Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550.
It is Football Friday here on WGR, brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash, call Celino, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way. You're very calm.
I'm very calm. I'm feeling good.
Josh, are you calm?
I am feeling good.
I have fluctuated so much over the past week. Right now I'm excited, but I'm probably going to be nervous 15 more times before the game comes.
Did they lose? What? Oh, they can't beat the Chiefs.
At some point, stories are supposed to change.
Right.
All right.
Supposed to.
We'll get some calls in here, 803-0550 and 1-888-550-2550. Bills and Chiefs, the pundits, plenty of them are picking the Bills to win this game. Plenty of them.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Don't like seeing that. I like seeing that.
Yeah.
By the way, my calmness is less about if they lose, it doesn't matter. It's much more I'm confident that they will win it.
Do you want a very, very fast let's get stupid? We'll have a little bit of fun here. We'll get back some phone calls. We'll also spend some time remembering some Chiefs because that's tradition.
Yes.
Okay, let's get stupid.
Okay.
It's not going to be what you posted earlier, which was, would you take Tyler Bass from 42 to win it? Miss it, you lose. Make it, you win it.
I love Bills fans, by the way, because I got everybody in my mentions asking what hash mark the kick is from. Like, everyone wanted to know, is it from the left or the right before answering the question.
That's funny. So here's let's get stupid about this. What are the results right now? Last I checked, it was 85% yes.
Yeah, right now it is 85% yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Should they show that to Bass? Look at the confidence. Look at these people. 85% of these people are like, yeah.
Well, do kickers work the opposite way? Is he more motivated if he's doubted? Does he want it to be the opposite? Maybe he wants 85% to say he can't make it.
Well, if he
can go out and prove him wrong.
If he is that kind of kicker, he likes being doubted, then he'd look at the 15%. I'll prove them wrong.
I'll show those 73 people.
That's funny. Hey, listen, that's a lot of confidence in Tyler Bass. I mean,
it is. I mean, he's been a lot better recently, hasn't he?
He has rebounded, right? Has he not bounced back from bigger struggles earlier in the year?
I think so. And actually, you know what's interesting? I pointed out last week that Justin Tucker, as bad as the season you thought Bass had, Tucker was 11% in field goals worse than Tyler Bass was on the season. Bass, as we've pointed out, like Bass's problem actually this year has been more about extra points. 92% in extra points is one of the worst marks in the league. His 84% in field goals is actually not that bad. It's more middle of the pack. Harrison Butker has been struggling in Kansas City. He's been money, right, for a lot of his career. His field goal percentage this year lower than Tyler Bass's, 84%. And if you look at his recent games, he did go 3 for 3 against the Texans. He missed an extra point against the Steelers on Christmas. He missed a kick against Cleveland. Like, there's some misses in here by Butker since he returned. A couple. Not like a ton, but missed one against Denver in the finale that cost them a shutout, I guess.
Yeah. The Bills have to win, man. Right? The Bills have to win this.
They have to win.
They have to win. I said this a lot last year and they lost, so maybe I shouldn't say it. But they have to win. They have to win.
They have to win more than last year.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it would have changed if they won the game. Did you think... It's also division around versus AFC. This is a bad comparison, but did we feel like going into those playoffs that they were going to win the Super Bowl? Do we feel like going into that game that they were going to win the Super Bowl? Maybe we did. I don't remember it. Like right now, it feels much more like, man, if they win this game, they're going to win it.
Well, if they were able to take down Baltimore and Kansas City in back-to-back weeks, in a year where they also took down Kansas City and Detroit the regular season, like they have the resume for it. Mm-hmm. And to win this game, to go to the Super Bowl, they will be favored against either team that's there.
Mm-hmm.
We already know the look-ahead lines. Eagles is closer to a pick-em, but they have to win this game. And it is for legacy. It's to keep the dogs away from McDermott for a while, too, because if they lose this game, I know what Monday sounds like.
McDermott.
It's McDermott. It's this coach can't get you where you need to go. And I don't think that would only be locally. I think that nationally you'd hear that a lot as well, especially if Allen plays well. Now we got the most ball-protecting version of Allen, and you ended in the same spot, which to me would indicate that was never really the problem. And I don't think it was ever the problem. No matter what version you got of Allen during the regular season, in the playoffs, he protects the football just fine. He's not been a problem in the playoffs for that. So they have to win this game. They have to beat Kansas City for America. And I don't want to underestimate that.
For America.
Everybody's tired of the Chiefs. The Chiefs are like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Everyone's tired of us. Like, it's not cool, guys. Go away. Everybody hates you. We want you to go away. Take a February off. Leave.
Yeah.
Take
a break.
You've overstayed your welcome. Just go away for like a month.
Everybody does want the Bills to win.
Yes.
There's one of those, geo search, whatever, hashtag based, however they figure it out. States that are rooting for each team. Did you see this?
Yes.
How many are rooting for the Bills?
It's all of them that aren't Kansas, in Missouri, Kansas, and Maryland and Virginia.
The one I saw was for like the Super Bowl. So of the 4 teams right now.
It's like the country is rooting for the Bills.
Yeah, it's like 33 of the 50 states are rooting for the Bills. Like maybe 5 for the Commanders, 3 for the Eagles, and like 2 for Kansas City, maybe something like that.
And worth pointing out, people aren't rooting for the Bills because there's some scrappy upstart. I mean, they've been in this spot for years. To me, I'll almost always do this where I got 4 teams left and one fan base has never won the whole thing before, and that fan base is not, They haven't existed for 3 weeks, like Vegas winning the Cup or whatever.
Uh-huh.
I'll root for a fan base that needs it. Why did people root for the Cleveland Cavaliers to beat the Warriors? Cleveland, get a title.
Right. They had LeBron James on the team.
Give that right.
And they were like, right, it was more of it was just get that city a title.
Yeah.
And everybody rallied around them. Everybody's got Drew McGarry. I was just snickering it. He from Defector. Just like everyone's writing this story right now. The headline for the piece he just wrote is "America has a tyrant and only the Buffalo Bills can save us." Like that's the everybody's mantra going into this game.
Yeah.
Is the Bills have to save everybody from another Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yeah, I was watching earlier. They're showing Chiefs highlights of winning the Super Bowl. There's Nance interviewing Mahomes, and the Lombardi Trophy gets handed over. If they were to win it this year, I hope that they would just give them the trophy and walk off the stage. Like we don't want to hear you talk, man. Patrick, I'm sorry. No one wants to hear you talk about this one.
The Chick Hicks celebration from Cars. They just throw the trophy at him.
They do a podium for the AFC Championship, don't they?
Yes.
They get up there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Doing that on an Arrowhead's field would be pretty sweet, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Go some phone calls here. I love the Chick Hicks reference. That's so right. Throw the trophy. Rick and Olean. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Jeremy, Joe, good to be on with you. I just got a couple of things. Hey, listen, we got to relax. The Bills have got this. All right. What's McDermott said all year? Fundamental football. All right. And that's really what it comes down to. And we all know that. And I just got a couple of thoughts here. One of them is the defensive ends can't push too far upfield, that and get pressure up the middle. The defensive ends can't slash. Hold your spot. There's a couple of other things here, too. The DBs, if they get up on the Chiefs receivers, that throws off the timing for Mahomes. That's big. All right? And, just play good fundamental football. And the Bills have got this, you guys. If they do that, they've got it. Hey, thanks a lot. I'm going to go off and listen.
Thanks, Rick. I wonder how their rush packages will be different than they were against Lamar, because you spy Mahomes, but I think you spy him for a different reason. It's not the same. Lamar, you need Dorian Williams or somebody really fast to make sure he doesn't hurt you too much. The difference might be, and we've seen this in Bills-Chiefs matchups, when you spy Mahomes, you wait for the rush to do what it does. You can kind of cut them loose. I know Rick's saying, be careful, blah, blah, blah. Don't go too far upfield. On Jackson, I would agree. On Mahomes, he is taking sacks this year at a level he's never taken sacks before, whether that's the offensive line or his escapability is not the same. He's listed on the injury report with an ankle injury, blah, blah, blah.
He's always listed with an ankle injury.
I know. But you can get him in a way that you can't get Lamar. So, let him loose. Let the defensive ends loose. And then if you have Terrell Bernard or Dorian Williams or Matt Milano triggering and firing once he's flushed, we've seen them do that with success and get him on the ground or force him into bad throws. So
the pick, do you remember the first pick he threw, or was it the only pick he threw, against the Bills in the regular season meeting? Early in the game. He actually,
is this the Terrell Bernard pick, or is there another one?
Taylor Rapp.
Taylor
Rapp early in the game. He's getting pressured from all sides. Actually, this is him falling as he throws it, like he threw a touchdown against Houston. Like, no one could ever do that.
Oh, and it sailed on him.
He threw that pass while falling and getting hit. It sailed on him. He threw it right to Taylor Rapp.
Yeah.
You forced him into a mistake because here comes the pressure. He can't get away. He throws the ball, and it was right to the safety. So, he's making those. He's still not making those mistakes a lot by league standards, but it's happening way more than it ever has in his career. I mean, his sack percentage, I think, is double what it ever has been.
He's usually a top 5 at not getting sacked, and this year they were in the middle, which is a big, big drop for him in terms of how often teams have gotten him on the ground. Dave in Baltimore. Hey, Dave, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Hey, I just wanted to say I took a lot of flack last week for the lifelong Bills fan here, and they pulled it through, so I'm pretty happy about that. Got a chance to tear up some Ravens fans here, but I was a little kind of discouraged when they came out at halftime and had the chance to kind of put Derrick Henry away by, actually taking some shots, but they kind of came out a little flat. And I'm just kind of wondering, the first two possessions they punt, and just kind of ran right into the middle of the Ravens defense and didn't really take what was working for them in the first half. And I'm just kind of wondering what you guys are thinking. Going into this game coming up, do you think they're going to actually play a lot more conservative, or do you think they're going to be a little more, lights out like they were against the Lions and, against the Rams? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. One thing, thanks, Dave. We talked to Joe Marino of the Locked On Bills podcast about this, and, looking into what the Bills did to start the second half against Baltimore, the Ravens made their adjustment to sell out to stop the run because the Bills were running it so well. And I know it's one play that maybe makes the difference. Allen, when he misses Kincaid, and if you want Kincaid to make that catch or Allen to make a little bit better throw, that's a new set of downs, and maybe they go from there. So a little bit of the film look back, what did they do on those two possessions, was less about conservative calls and more about they didn't execute. So I'm with you. I felt a little bit conservative about those, like they were a little bit tame, but we'll see. They should be able to run the ball against Kansas City. And maybe Kansas City sells out to stop the run and they can win in the play-action game,
or maybe down the field.
Or maybe listen.
I'm watching some plays back from this Kansas City game. Like, they took shots. Not like every play.
Yeah.
But especially Cooper, they were trying to get Cooper the ball down the field. They were testing those corners down the field. Even McDuffie. Maybe that's the one night you don't want to test too often.
I was going to say, if they're testing the corners, there's one throw to Cooper where, I forgot about this one, where Allen throws it and Cooper tracks it like Willie Mays.
Yeah.
Over his head backwards.
Yep.
Samuel gets loose in this game a little bit.
Yep.
Of course, Allen running has to be a thing here, right? His over-under for rushing attempts is 9.5. And he always runs double-digit times against the Chiefs.
Yep.
Will they incorporate QB power? Is this a game where that comes out? Because let's be real about this. If you're Joe Brady on Twitter, if you follow him, every week they win, he writes 1-0. He lives a week-to-week life. He's not looking ahead. But that said, when you play the Chiefs in the regular season and you beat them, and you notice what works and what doesn't work, that's different than if you beat the Cardinals week 1. Like, when are you going to see the Cardinals again? You're not worried about it, right?
In 3 years. Yeah.
The Ravens game, we noted what went wrong in the first matchup. They punted on some fourth downs. They made some big mistakes. They called a trick play. But there was some proof that they could move the ball and they could be offensively efficient in that game, even though they got blown out 35-10. And here you had a game against the Chiefs where, you put up more points on them than anybody did. You beat them by 9.
Yep. Defensively, you did a pretty good job.
Pretty good.
Like, they really just, on all accounts, other than they ran the ball very poorly on early downs. And they won anyway. And they won by 2 scores anyway.
The Chiefs give up yards to tight ends. Like 31st in EPA against tight ends.
Okay. The Bills have been giving up some yardage to tight ends. They just did it last week, right? Like, if Andrews doesn't make big mistakes, part of the story of that game is you couldn't stop their tight ends. And part of that is Baltimore doesn't have any receivers. So that helps that. But that's also been Kansas City this year a little bit. Like, Kelsey has been heating up at the end. Gray has been one of their more consistent weapons on the year. Like, his numbers are not crazy. But I mentioned yesterday, he's the one player on the Chiefs that has a higher first down rate on third downs than Kelsey does. 80% of Gray's targets this year on third down go for the first. So he's become Kelsey light for them. And he's on the field a lot. So, like, they've got 2 pretty good tight ends as well. Like, I would trust their tight ends getting involved in the game more than I would the Bills tight ends right now.
803-0550, we have to continue to keep our traditions alive and do things the way we've been doing them because the Bills keep winning. So, with that said, it is time to remember some Chiefs.
Okay.
I'll start. Dante Hall, the X Factor. Do you remember Dante Hall?
I remember Dante Hall. I remember playing with Dante Hall in Madden. It was like a 99 kick returner.
Yeah.
Oh, his highlights are insane. Yeah. He's my introduction. Him and Terrence McGee, when I'm a kid, are like breaking the sport with returns.
I think Dante Hall took one back against the Bills at Arrowhead in a game the Bills lost 38-5.
Okay.
Which is a funny score just to say, but I'm pretty sure it was a primetime game. Greg Williams Bills at Kansas City 38-5.
Okay.
I might be mixing some games there, but anyway, Dante Hall.
How about Tamba Ali?
Tamba Ali is he still like around in Chiefs Kingdom? Like he does stuff. I've seen him on TV doing stuff for them.
Okay. I haven't seen that, but he was a great pass rusher.
Tyler Thigpen, I'm going to read some of the tweets that came in as people remember Chiefs with us.
Okay.
CJ Spiller had forgotten about that.
Right. LaShawn McCoy was in Kansas City.
Le'Veon Bell had forgotten about that one too. McCoy, Super Bowl champion LaShawn McCoy.
How about Dwayne Bowe?
LSU receiver.
Yep. I think he had 15 touchdowns in a year for the Chiefs. Big fantasy year.
Neil Smith.
Okay. Jamal Charles, the all-time leader in yards per carry in the NFL. He was great.
Brody Croyle.
Who?
Quarterback. Brody Croyle.
Brody Croyle?
I feel like would he go to Alabama? Brody Croyle. Doesn't it sound like a guy that went to Alabama?
A little bit.
Brody?
Brody? Yeah, I got him in the SEC somewhere.
I think he's Alabama. Double check. I'll double check right now. Yes, he was. Alabama. Yep.
More crossover names. Mitch Morse.
Yeah.
Kyle Orton. He played 12 games for the Chiefs.
Tyler Thigpen is a crossover, is he not? Right?
Yep. Sammy Watkins, of course.
Yeah. Reggie Ragland, former Bill.
Is he?
He went to training camp.
Okay, so he's just as much a former Bill then as
Anquan Bolden.
Vince Young. And although he was drafted in the second round.
Yes, he
that
was.
Almost makes him a little bit better for this. Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Yes.
Spent a second with the Bills this year.
Mike Edwards.
Also spent a second with the Bills this year. I forgot about him.
Derek Thomas.
Eric Berry.
Okay, safety, right?
Safety. Great safety.
Elvis Gerbach. Tyrann Mathieu. Marv.
Yeah.
How about Marv?
Marv. He's the Chiefs coach in what, the 70s?
It's a good pull there.
Okay. What about... Looking for a good one here.
Who's the guy that had the pick?
Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson were great running backs.
Who had the pick six against Jeff Toole in the game here? Sean Smith,
man,
maybe, something like that?
That sounds right.
Sean Smith?
I was at that game.
Yeah, I was at that game, too.
What a pick.
What a moment.
There's another... This is not a Chief. Is the Bryce Brown fumble against the Chiefs?
Yes. Where Scott...
Is it the same game?
No,
different
I think
game?
It's a different Chiefs game, regular season,
Okay.
mediocre bowl. Yes, Bryce Brown fumble. Scott Chandler can't collect it in the end zone.
Yeah.
A hilarious
I
mistake.
remember being more mad at Chandler after that than I was at Brown, who fumbled, because it was such an easy, just grab the ball. He was right there for you.
Christian Okoye, of course.
All those drought games. Actually, not all those drought games are the same, because the Bills blew out the Chiefs a couple times, I think.
Yeah, they won in Arrowhead 41-7 in a season opener.
Yeah.
You can't say
they won 54-31 in 2008.
Okay. You can't say Christian Okoye without saying Barry Word and Harvey Williams. Those three running backs, what they had back then in the 90s.
Okoye scared me as a kid when I was watching the 91 Bills yearbook on VHS that we owned.
Huge.
Yeah, he was
the neck
terrifying.
roll. Yep. All right, 803-0550. Chris Brown when we return as we keep rolling through this Buffalo Bills Football Friday, brought to you by Celino Law, Car Crash, Call Celino, and by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
Start your game day the Crosby's way.
You're listening to Jeremy and Joe, live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills, WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game on Sunday at 6:30. We'll have coverage starting bright and early at 10 here on WGR. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The Bills have a couple of players that are limited. Christian Benford, Taron Johnson, Matt Milano, all limited to practice. Taylor Rapp's still not on the field, dealing with his hip injury, also listed with a back injury as well. Good news, Deion Dawkins back on Thursday after being sick on Wednesday. No injuries to watch for the Chiefs. Everybody's been a full participant there. Elsewhere around the NFL, Liam Cohen, the offensive coordinator of the Bucs, is now the head coach of the Jaguars. He takes the job after pulling himself out of the running earlier in the week. Then the Jags fired their GM, Trent Baalke. Cohen got back into it, had a secret meeting with the owner, so the Bucs didn't know, and he ends up taking the job. So a lot happening there. Pete Carroll's talked with Jerry Jones about potentially taking the Cowboys head coach job. Leslie Frazier, Brian Schottenheimer, Deion Sanders have been the other candidates to this point in Dallas. Sabres lose last night, 5-2 to Calgary. They were tied going into the third, gave up 3 third-period goals. Sabres fall next up. Final game of their West Coast trip tomorrow at 4 o'clock at Edmonton. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
You better bring your heart. You better bring your guts. You better put it on the line. You better give max effort. You better put it on the line. And so that's never been two separate thought processes. Process is the process. It's the approach and the preparation. And then the mindset has always been the mindset of this is football. You got to bring it every day, every week.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott, we are rolling on a football Friday. Bills and Chiefs, 6:30 from Arrowhead Stadium. And good morning. Jeremy and Joe with you, going to the Wester Hotline to talk with Chris Brown as we do on Fridays. Mr. Brown, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Good. I was thinking, how are you feeling about this? You know, like these games are legacy moments, and I mean, for you, this is big. Going to Arrowhead, AFC Championship game. You know, I wonder how you're kind of feeling in this moment.
Yeah, I am eerily calm. I don't know why. I was the same way last week. I can't explain it. When I was more on the written side of things at BuffaloBills.com, I would get nervous for these games and kind of get all pent up, and I don't know why. I'm just not in the broadcast booth now. It's very strange to me. I don't feel detached at all. I feel as kind of close to the team as ever, but for some reason there's this eerie calm that has kind of come over me, and in a weird way, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah,
because the players are much the same way.
It's kind of interesting. As Joe and I have been talking about it this morning, I kind of get the feeling that there are two stories here. One is, of course, beating the Chiefs, which is a nemesis, and the other is going to the Super Bowl, and they are obviously connected here, but it almost feels like two different accomplishments that are kind of wrapped up into one.
Right, and there's a narrative here where I think you convince a lot of people that if the Bills were going to go to the Super Bowl, it was going to happen this way. They had to beat the Ravens and the Chiefs in the same postseason. So I don't know. Maybe there's some divine intervention here that this is the path that they had to travel to finally get there. They did have that opportunity, as we know, 5 years ago, where they beat the Ravens and had a chance to beat the Chiefs. But I think they're better equipped to finish the job this time around than they were 5 years ago, when they were really in their infancy as a Super Bowl contender.
How much of that's the defense for you? Like, I'm kind of finding myself also kind of more calm and collected than last week, and I feel like last week for me it was how are they going to stop the Ravens? And the Chiefs are still a threat. I'm not bypassing them at all on that front, but these playoff numbers, Chris, like it's 2 meetings against the Chiefs when they have Tyreek Hill and they're a completely different offense. And then I don't want to completely throw out last year, but I'm prone to because I just can't get past how few bodies they had for that game.
Right. They are much healthier this year. And I was trying to discern, as I'm poring over the notes and all the statistics, the Chiefs play a very efficient brand of offense because they don't have any other choice. They have to play that way with Mahomes at the controls because he is the most reliable and consistent thing that they have. And I think the Bills have proven this year that, yes, playing an efficient style is very beneficial for them, but there are many other things they can turn to if they have to win a different way. And I think that's what will ultimately lift this team over the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, we're waiting for does Josh Allen need to put on the cape, right? Like the Superman Clark Kent. I saw ESPN talking about this and whether or not he'll have to do that. Chris, in these moments against the Chiefs, Allen has been very good. I don't feel like he's had a bad game against the Chiefs in quite some time. And I wonder if you think there's any one target that this week will be his favorite target or most reliable target. I know it's about spreading the ball around, but does anyone jump out at you as a potential X-factor game breaker? I asked Sal the same question. If there's any one player that'll be Allen's right-hand man in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't know why I've felt this way. Sometimes I just have these weird passing thoughts through the course of the week, and the guy that's been sticking in my head has been Amari Cooper. I don't know why that is, but I just see, a veteran that's, been in playoff games before, played the Chiefs very early in his career twice a year, has had some monster games against them. I don't know why, but he's the guy that's sticking in my head, which kind of sounds ridiculous because there have been games where he hasn't even had a target. But I don't know. It's just wacky. I could be completely off my rocker, but he's the name that just keeps passing through my brain this week.
Well, I think a lot of that, Chris, like watching some back of the regular season meeting against the Chiefs, it looked very different than it did last week against the Ravens. Part of that was the Bills got off to very poor starts on first down. They would run, get a yard or two, run again, and they'd be in 3rd and long, but then they would get it. And there were a lot of plays in that game where even when he wasn't wide open, Allen was testing the Chiefs down the field, and it was with Cooper a lot.
Right. And I just believe that Spagnuolo is going to have a plan for Khalil Shakir because he's been carrying the passing game through the first 2 weeks of the postseason. So I'm anticipating he's going to have a plan for him. Their best cover corner is their slot corner, Trent McDuffie. So I think that Josh will have to look elsewhere in the passing game, and I don't know why, but Amari keeps coming up in my head.
Chris Brown joining us on the Western Hotline ahead of Bills Chiefs. Defensively, it's a much, much different story this week for a lot of reasons. Number one, maybe, is that Baltimore is this elite running team, and Kansas City has not really run the ball exceedingly well this year at any point. They don't get explosive plays. Not to say they couldn't hit you for one, but the fear of the 85-yard run from Derrick Henry was real. And for Kansas City, they just don't get explosive runs. And I wonder what Bobby Babich and Sean McDermott will cook up in terms of trying to make sure they can, keep things buttoned up on the back end. Because I would expect Kansas City, if they're going to win this game, to try and do so in the pass game.
Right. And I think the most interesting thing is, Isaiah Pacheco in the divisional playoff last year had 97 yards, which is a playoff high for him against the Bills, and was a major problem. And so now you look at him, his snap count has gone down each of the last 5 games since he's been back. So clearly Kansas City thinks something is missing from his skill set and explosiveness and suddenness as well, to the point where they're just now leaning on Kareem Hunt, who is still a capable back. I don't think he should be dismissed at all, but it's not the same concern that an explosive 4.3, 840 Isaiah Pacheco would be. So I'm very curious to see how that playtime balance works out. But if you can effectively make them one-dimensional, now you can focus more on the pass game. And look, what is the recipe there? We'll have to see. It's been clear that the Bills, and the Chiefs for that matter, have not been effective enough with a front four pass rush. They've both had to blitz a good deal here through the course of the second half of the season to generate consistent pressure and to speed up quarterbacks. So what is the formula there? Where do you pick your spots? Can you get them in long down and distance to take advantage and use blitzes to get them off schedule or even better off the field?
How do you expect McDermott to be in this game? Whether and that could be defensive scheme. It's weird. They don't really, you would think, need to have as many wrinkles as they would have against Baltimore from what they typically do, because what they typically do kind of, feels better for what Kansas City is. But you still probably would get some of those. And then with game management, Chris, like aggressiveness on fourth downs, if it's tied late, like is there a 2-point conversion decision, overtime stuff? How ready do you feel like McDermott is on that front for this game?
I think he's ready because he's kind of been there and done that with this same opponent. I want to believe that, he's a guy that practices what he preaches when he talks about daily self-improvement. When the players go away in the offseason, that guy, reviews the entire season and his player performance, but I know for a fact he also reviews his own. And so I think he is known as a guy that will painstakingly pore over every decision he makes in the previous season. So I'd like to think that he's got a memory bank that remembers a lot of those situations, and if there are some that he would handle differently, he will. But I think we all know he's been one of the more aggressive coaches in the league in this kind of a situation, fourth down I'm talking about. And to no one's surprise, the four teams that are among the 5 best on fourth down conversions are still alive right now. The only other team that was in that top 5 was Detroit, and they got bounced by the team that does it the best in Washington. So I expect him to be aggressive because this is it, man. There's no tomorrow. So I think he trusts his players enough to be aggressive, so I anticipate that he will be.
Parting thought on the NFC matchup?
Yeah, that one's tough for me because I was, far be it from me to paper shoot and say, well, if the Bills win, who'd you rather play? But I don't know if it's more difficult to play a quarterback who seemingly is unfazed by just about anything under the sun, or if it's more of a challenge to play a Philadelphia team that might be the biggest team in football. I had a chance to talk to Maurice Jones-Drew when we were out in L.A., and he basically said, standing on the sidelines when Philly went out there to play the Rams, he said it's the biggest football team he has ever seen in his life, like just from a pure size standpoint, and they are huge. So I don't know if you want any of that. You might take Washington and go after a rookie quarterback, knowing Sean McDermott's history against them. Got to get by the Chiefs first, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Brown on the Western Hotline. Chris, thanks again, and have a great call, have a great trip, and we'll see you on the other side.
Enjoy the game, guys, and, pop one back if it settles the nerves.
All right. I might need a few.
That's a good idea.
I might need the old Spencer Brown is what I'm going to need to settle these nerves. Chris Brown on the Western Hotline is part of Football Friday. His appearance brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com, by Dunn Tire, official tire dealer of the Buffalo Bills, and by Lockport Outdoor Store, high-impact gear for hardworking men and women. If you believe in curses, if you believe in conspiracies, things that have prevented the Bills from winning in the past, one very famous one has been lifted. I'll tell you what that is next.
Football Friday on W.
Exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
Was just explaining in the break what X-Files was about to Josh. You've seen it, though, Joe, which is great. Good.
Yes. Yeah.
So, maybe you know about this. It's a funny line from X-Files however long ago. The character that played Cancer Man once said this on the show.
What I don't want to see is the Bills winning a Super Bowl. As long as I'm alive, that doesn't happen.
Could be tough, sir. Buffalo wants it bad.
Now, he didn't die. If he had died, we could have said, curse is over. But the actor that played Cancer Man has said he wants the Bills to beat the Chiefs.
Oh, there you go.
That's it.
There you go.
It's over.
We're good to go.
The curse has been lifted.
It's been lifted. The X-Files curse,
yes,
has been lifted. All right, that means they're going to win.
Listen, it was a great show.
It was a very good show. My brother was more into it, and I would watch it more in passing when he was watching it. So I don't know that I've ever done like a full run through myself. It's got to be on one of the apps though,
somewhere.
Yeah.
Good morning. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. There's a good solid 10 years where coming up after so-and-so, it's an all-new X-Files. It was a Fox show that was...
Yeah.
You're watching Cowboys-Eagles at 4:30, and coming up next on an all-new X-Files.
All right.
You're still calm over there, huh?
I'm still pretty calm. Yeah, I feel good. I feel good.
I don't know how I feel.
I can't really explain it well. I don't know. I was petrified last week, and I'm just not. I'm just not petrified right now.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad you're calm. Me? I don't know. You want this game to start right now, or are you happy to wait until Sunday?
No, I can wait. I'm good.
Look at this.
I can wait.
It's the calm
I'm excited for the NFC Championship. I really am. I want the Commanders in it. I really want the Commanders in it because I do think it'll be hilarious that Daniel Snyder's first year not as the owner, if they're in the Super Bowl, would be awesome.
Yeah. All right, the Super Great American Football Friday Frenzy. When we return, we'll check in on the Eagles and the Commanders, and then a surprise for everyone coming up at 9:30.
Football Friday on
WKSE HD2 Niagara Falls, Buffalo, 98.5 FM.
An Odyssey sports station.
Broadcasting live from the Just Call Jed studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. This is the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550. Bills Chiefs. Wall-to-wall coverage of the AFC Championship game. Sunday from 10 a.m. till kickoff at 6:30 on the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR on the Odyssey app. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, Sunday, 6:30. We'll have coverage starting at 10 a.m. here on WGR. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-million. No practice again on Thursday for Bills safety Taylor Rapp. See if we get an injury designation from Sean McDermott during the Extra Point Show today. Matt Milano, Taron Johnson, Christian Benford were all limited. Deion Dawkins back at practice as a full participant after being sick on Wednesday. Nobody to watch injury-wise really for the Chiefs. In the NFC Championship game, Jalen Hurts was full at practice yesterday. He had been dealing with a knee injury that he picked up on this past weekend against the Rams. Coach news, Liam Cohen, the Bucs offensive coordinator, is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had pulled himself out of the running earlier in the week. Jags fired their GM that nobody seemed to want to work with. Cohen goes to Jacksonville at the end of the day to be their head coach. Sabres lose last night, 5-2. To the Calgary Flames. They were tied going into the third, gave up 3 third-period goals, so they fall again. Next up tomorrow against Edmonton at 4 o'clock. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kick off 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
To Kansas City, here we come. We're going to Kansas City, here we come. They got a wimpy little football team and we're gonna beat them 1. The Bills will blow them out, the fans are gonna shout. At Oldies 104, we haven't got a doubt. We're going to Kansas City.
So that's the Bills Boogie from Oldies 104 in 1991.
I had this on cassette.
Yeah?
As a kid, yeah.
At our tailgate,
there were other songs.
There's a lot. At our tailgate, it is a mixtape of classic Bills songs being played. There's a polka.
Okay. Yeah. This is the only one I seem to remember. At all.
Yeah?
Maybe if I heard the other ones, it would ring a bell again, but I don't. This is the only one that I could ever do off the top of my head.
Good morning. Happy Football Friday. Jeremy and Joe on Football Friday. We'll get to some Eagles and some Commanders check-ins in a moment. Real quick, though, let's redo our answers here for who needs to get results. Brought to you by Dan Chacha, Injury Attorneys. Don't worry, Chacha's gotcha. Who needs to get results? Hand up, my answer. Ready?
Yeah.
It's a group. I'm sorry, it's not one person.
Okay, I have one person. You go first, though.
Bills pass catchers.
Okay.
Think of them as wide receivers. Think of them as tight ends. Think of them as running backs, fullbacks. Bills pass catchers have to get results in this game.
All right.
I think they're going to need to throw the ball to succeed.
I think the answer is Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott having the right decision-making on 4th downs. If it's tied at the end, if you're down 1 and you score a touchdown, okay, do I go for 2 for the win or do I go to overtime? If I go to overtime, what do I do? Because he's never been in this overtime format before. So if you get the ball first, do you go for 2 on the first possession? Because I think you're supposed to, but last year Kyle Shanahan didn't, right?
Yep.
And they lost. So
I don't agree you're supposed to.
That was more debatable, right?
It was debated, and there's some 50-50 to it.
But all those nitty-gritty situations where it's going to come down to a coaching decision one way or the other, don't screw it up. McDermott. And you can include the defensive game plan if you want for that.
Yeah.
For me, it's more about the tight game, clock management, timeouts, fourth down, 2-point conversions, all of that is, to me, what I'm thinking about more so.
803-0550 if you want to get on the phone with us. It's, we got time. We've got 2 guests coming up here, quick check-ins on the Eagles and then Commanders. It is the undercard, finger quotes. We're calling it the undercard. Why wouldn't we do that?
I think it's fair to do.
Sure, fine. Eagles, Commanders. Back-to-back guests, and then back to your phone calls, and then a surprise for everyone at 9:30 that proves that we will do whatever it takes. This is our superstitious side coming up at 9:30, I suppose. Joining us on the Western Hotline, Joe's brother Lou DiBiase. Lou, good morning.
Good morning.
So you talk Eagles, Locked On Eagles. Question I asked Joe earlier today was, do the Eagles like each other? Does anybody there like each other, or do they just, grind through and find ways to win?
I think Colin Cowherd actually put it best, that they're just this loud family that fights all the time, and it normally wouldn't work for anybody else, but it works for them. No, I really do think this team has a ton of chemistry, and I don't know, it's a special unit. I'm really excited for Sunday, but a little bit nervous about Jalen Hurts' health, though. That's the big thing I'm watching.
So he had his knee twisted up on Sunday. In terms of if he's limited mobility-wise, like he already – pedestrian numbers, they are leaning into the run game. So I don't know if he's limited. Like, what is he doing for them on Sunday, or are they just going to go all in on the run?
Well, that's what I'm nervous about, because Hurts' number is passing-wise, again, as you said, pedestrian. He's thrown for under 150 yards in both playoff games. A lot of that's by design, because they're just letting Saquon Barkley carry them. They have the number 1 defense in football. Like, that is going to be their bread and butter. But I do think if they're going to get to the Super Bowl, if they're going to win it all, like, he is going to have some special moments against Jaden Daniels, against Allen or Mahomes. And I don't think it's going to be – like, I'm more worried about him running than anything that has to do with the passing game, because I think Hurts is who he is at this point as a passer in year 5. Like, there does have to be some acceptance of who he is. I'm kind of over the back-and-forth debate that's still going on, even with them being in the NFC title. I think he has to be able to move for any sort of threat to take away attention from Saquon. And so that first drive, honestly, when they're on offense, that's going to be what I'm watching for. That's going to be like the most nerve-wracking moment, is how limited is he as a runner. Because I just don't think if he has to be a pocket passer that can't move inside the pocket, even with Saquon, I don't think they can win that game.
How about A.J. Brown's health? I mean, that had been something down the stretch. Is he 100% or just kind of playing through something?
I think he's hurt. I mean, he only has 3 catches in these first 2 games of the postseason, and he had a couple bad drops, not going to lie, against the Rams. Hurts had a beautiful downfield throw, like 40-plus yards in the air. Would have set them up at the 1-yard line. Brown just dropped it. But he's just not moving off the line of scrimmage well. He was dealing with a leg injury, a knee injury heading into the playoffs. So I think of course the snow limits any receiver and what they can do with route running, but he looks injured to me. So I think that's why also they've had to lean on Saquon even more, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. That's going to be another thing I'm watching closely, because him and Marshawn Lattimore, that was a battle the last time these 2 teams played. And Lattimore's a corner that does shadow top receivers a lot of the time. He followed Brown the last time they played over the entire formation. So, yeah, that's another thing I'm watching closely. The health of Hurts and Brown, that could be massive, because if those guys are limited, Washington's just going to stack the box and go after Saquon.
One thing about the second matchup, so that's a Kenny Pickett game, right? But along the way, in that game, the Commanders turned the ball over 5 times.
Commanders threw 5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns, sorry. Yeah. I thought there were a bunch of turnovers in that game.
Oh, maybe there were 2. I don't know.
But whatever. Like, you saw them come back and kind of, whatever, put up a big number against Philly that they hadn't done in the first matchup. What was different about the second, other than the Kenny Pickett factor?
No, you are right. So they did force 5 turnovers. It was a weird game because Daniels was incredible in the second half. He actually had, I believe, 4 touchdowns at the end of the third quarter and the entire fourth quarter, put up over 30 points. But he did turn the ball over 4 or 5 times in that game. So I do think it was a weird game for the Eagles. Like, normally they didn't have those kind of coverage lapses throughout the year. I mean, the pass rush just didn't hit home the same. But Daniels is so special, like making plays outside of structure. Even when they did get there, he would just make things happen that a lot of other quarterbacks can't. So that's what I'm nervous about, too, on Sunday, is just the plays outside of structure with his legs. Even if they do hit home, Jalen Carter last week had one of the best games I've ever seen from an Eagle in the playoffs. But that ability to hold on to the football and make things happen outside of structure, like, that's really how he had success in the last game. But I will say, like, even with Kenny Pickett in that matchup with Jalen Hurts getting concussed, they were a Devontae Smith drop away from winning that matchup. So I'm still, outside of the quarterback battle, the Eagles have the advantage, I feel like, in pretty much every other spot. So I'm still pretty confident in the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm looking at those 5 turnovers. I feel like, Lou, you could spin it either way. One way I want to look at it is, they put up 36 and turned it over 5 times.
That's insane.
So if Washington plays any bit of a clean game, I will expect them to be in it.
Yeah, no, I think, again, with Jaden Daniels playing, this shows that in the NFL, even if you don't have an elite roster, and the Eagles are an outlier where they're getting to the Final Four with a quarterback that's kind of a game manager right now, but if you have elite quarterback play, it masks so many deficiencies. And again, Washington's roster, they were a 6th seed for a reason. They were last year a bottom-tier team for a reason, but he's been so elite that, yeah, I do think it's going to be a close. I do not think the Eagles are going to blow them out on Sunday. It could honestly come down to who has the ball last, because between Hurts, Barkley, and Daniels, these are 3 of the best fourth-quarter players in the league. I mean, how many game-winning drives has Daniels had this year? So they need to make sure if in the fourth quarter it is close, that they really control time of possession, because if he gets the ball at the end, I'm going to be sweating that one out.
I've been wondering, too, about this game and, the first half being as important. Or maybe the Eagles haven't trailed at halftime since Week 11. They've been able to get out to leads and then use the power run game with Barkley, and you can't stop them. They're going to run the clock on you. So I wonder what it'll look like, Lou, if the Eagles don't build a lead. If the Commanders somehow are able to go into halftime tied or have a lead in the football game. That's really where you want to be, I think, if you're the Washington perspective, because then you're forcing Hurts to really have to be a major part of the game plan, versus if the Eagles are up 10, then the Eagles can hide him if they want.
No, you put it perfectly with Jalen. If you have to win because of Jalen Hurts on Sunday, that might be not a good recipe. And that's a problem that the Eagles face a lot early in the year. They were the worst first quarter. It was a weird, in the quarters 2 through 4, statistically, they were the best offense in the league. In the first quarter, they were 32nd in pretty much every category. They didn't have a first quarter touchdown until halfway through the year. So starting fast is massive, because, Jalen has to throw 30-plus times in this game. If he does have to run around and make things happen, I just don't know if he's at 100% to do that. The weather, luckily, is going to be a lot better this time. There's not going to be the blizzard there was Sunday against the Rams. But, if you have to win on the back of Jalen, that I don't know if they'll get to New Orleans next week. So I'm with you. That's why that first drive is so critical, obviously, to start fast, but just to see where his leg is at. I mean, he avoided any structural damage in the knee, but you really got to see how he's moving.
Finally, if the Bills and Eagles meet in the Super Bowl, do you two watch the game together?
I don't know if we're going to be able to.
I don't think we're going to be able to. Yeah,
I don't know if we can.
Scenario.
Yeah.
I'm so conflicted. I don't feel like I can fully enjoy the experience if both of them are in this game. So I'm kind of scared of this scenario, but I don't think I can watch it with him. That's more about you, Joe, than me, though.
Right.
I don't think I can be.
I might fight him. That's the problem. I might fight him.
I was going to say, who's more obnoxious? Who's more in your face? Who's more prone to the brotherly violence?
Me, 100%, right?
I think I would instigate it based on my reaction.
Yeah, he knows the buttons to push.
Yeah, I mean, I have never seen that last year when the Eagles and Bills played. We watched it together. That was the most fired up I've seen Joe in a long time. So yeah, I think I do know how to push those.
That was
Eagles ended up winning.
Yeah,
it
was the right type of game to push buttons, because the Bills were the better team on the day and lost the football game.
Oh, 100%.
So it made it worse.
Yeah.
Real quick, you're driving down there tomorrow?
Yeah, so I'm headed down
to Philly
tomorrow. And deciding, might be going to the Senior Bowl right after, depending on how the game goes. It's going to be a crazy week.
Where will you watch the Bills game from? Is there any possibility you'll seek out a Bills backers bar after the Eagles game, or does it depend on what the Eagles do?
No, I will not be going to a Bills backers bar, but I'll be at my favorite bar, McGillen's in Center City, watching both games. So
right.
No, I'll 100% be glued to that TV.
All right.
Thanks, Lou.
I'll see you tonight. Swing some clubs.
Guys.
You guys are going to play some golf tonight, and then talk about a potential Super Bowl. How did you become an Eagles fan? We had people in the chat asking how Lou became an Eagles fan.
It's partially my fault, I think, because I rooted for them very hard to win the Super Bowl in 2004, and I loved Terrell Owens as a kid, so I had a T.O. jersey, and I think when I passed down the T.O. jersey as a hand-me-down, I think he just kind of stuck with it. He has confirmed. He wouldn't say it on the air there, though, but he has told me in private I'm not breaking any trust here. He's told me in private that he would want the Bills to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Whoa. Well, he has won.
But I think he's even said, like, as it's happening, that's why he doesn't want it to happen. I don't know that I can root for it as it's happening, but if I'm not there in the moment, I know I want the parade here.
Well, from the Philadelphia side to the Washington side, JP Finley joins us on the Western Hotline to chat about the Commanders, who are having a charmed season here. JP, thanks for taking some time. It's Jeremy and Joe. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. How you doing?
So, house money for the Commanders, or is it, holy cow, we're here, let's win the whole thing? Like, what's the mindset there in a season that's gone about as good as anybody probably could have expected?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's closer to the latter, honestly. There is enough kind of veteran leadership that has been on deep runs. Zach Ertz and Bobby Wagner have Super Bowl rings, and they understand kind of what's at stake here. And then the young guys don't know any better than to just think, like, all right, let's go win this thing. And so it creates this really interesting dynamic. Dan Quinn has obviously gone on a deep run, and it's really interesting in that nobody, and like I do a radio show in D.C., we've made a point of this, but like the coaching staff, nobody is trying to play the like what we've accomplished game, and everybody. Good morning, boss. No, you're fine. Thank you. Sorry, I have a plumber in my house. Nobody is playing the like what we've accomplished, what a great season. Everything is focused on Philly, and
we're losing JP.
I think we lost him.
We lost him? You're there. Go ahead. JP, following up on that, is it all Jaden Daniels? I mean, he's an MVP candidate. The fact that he's not a finalist for the MVP to me is kind of nuts. Just how good has it been from the rookie, and how far into the season did you go before you thought maybe this was possible?
It's interesting because I thought that honestly, when they got Tampa in the playoffs, that was the exact matchup I wanted them to get. I thought they could beat Tampa. Sure enough, they did. Even going to Detroit, I thought the Lions' defense was so bad and Washington was able to score that they would have a real chance. Now, once Goff started turning the ball over like that, obviously they had a very good chance. This one's, I don't know. Philly's got a really good defense, and I think for all the focus on Jalen Hurts and whatever else may come, defensively, I think Philly's D-line could control this game. Washington has struggled running the ball anyway. I think that could be a big problem on Sunday. So it's this is their biggest challenge by a long shot, I think.
JP Finley on the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, there was a period of the season in the middle where he wasn't running as much. Was that rib injury, and now he's back 100% and doing whatever it takes? Really, like we talk about Josh Allen putting on a superhero cape occasionally. Does Jaden Daniels do that?
For sure. I mean, they're different quarterbacks in that Josh is big and strong, and Jaden is kind of slight and maybe faster. But they both, I would say, like the Eagles are loaded, right? And I'm not sure that with Kenny Pickett they're in the NFC title game, but was like a average quarterback play, they're still a playoff team. If you just had average quarterback play on Washington, this team is probably 7-10.
No, we're losing him again. All right, we'll let him go. JP Finley of NBC Sports in Washington and 106.7 The Fan. Our best of luck to the Commanders going forward.
Or didn't we decide maybe not because we want them to change the name?
I would also take more pleasure personally if the Bills go to the Super Bowl in beating the Eagles. I would enjoy that more.
Than beating the Commanders?
Probably. The Commanders we'd be happy for. I would not be happy for the Eagles. If the Eagles were playing most AFC teams, I would root against them.
Not the Chiefs, though.
No, not the Chiefs.
Not the Chiefs.
If it's the Eagles and Chiefs, I will have to root for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I will not enjoy that, but I will do that.
Yeah.
But I'd root for the AFC, you name it, almost everybody else against Philly. I had a brief flirtation with the Eagles when McNabb was their quarterback. I liked the Eagles.
Wouldn't Washington feel worse though in the moment if the Bills? Let's play the hypothetical. The Bills beat the Chiefs, depending on who they play in the NFC. If they were to play the Eagles and you lose to them, it's all right. Great season. Didn't think you'd make it this far. The Eagles are a proven great NFC team. They've won the Super Bowl. They've been to the Super Bowl. Like, all right. Golf clap, Philadelphia. If the Commanders are in the Super Bowl against the Bills and somehow win, isn't it going to be, what the hell? You just got here. The who? The team name didn't exist 3 years ago. This kid just showed up. It's supposed to be my time, I thought. Everyone said it's time, right? It's Josh Allen's time. It's Sean McDermott. It's the Bills' time. You just showed up, and now you're going to take one? I'm feeling in the moment it might hurt if the Commanders, I'm playing a long hypothetical game here. There's only 4 teams left. If the Commanders were to beat the Bills, I feel like it would not feel good. Or it would feel worse than the Eagles. Of course it wouldn't feel good, but.
The NFC will be the home team in the Super Bowl. They choose what uniforms to wear.
In the Super Bowl?
Yes. What do the Eagles choose? Green, white?
They should go Kelly green, but I don't think they would. They should go...
Would teams always choose their colors over their whites? I don't know if that's true or not.
Does it depend on... No, never mind. They wore green in both of the 2 Super Bowls they've been in recently.
Okay.
The one they won with Foles and then the one they lost to Kansas City. They'd probably pick home. I mean, if the Bills were going to choose when they pick blue.
You would think.
So if they make it...
If the Bills were able to pick, they'd go blue tops, white pants, right? That's what the Bills would pick.
I think yeah. Yeah, I think so. Although I'm thrown off by what they're doing this week with the Blue Sox. I cannot remember another game ever.
Please refer to the uniform setup as the Fine China.
The Fine China.
It's the Fine China. What else is blue and white?
The Indianapolis Colts.
That's true. That's right.
Blue and white.
Things that are blue and white. Glaciers.
There you go. The Arctic. The Arctic unis. All right.
Sal brings up a good point. Here's one counter. If Washington makes the Super Bowl, would they pick white? Because they've been on the road the whole time, and they've been wearing white. They want momentum, superstition.
They don't want to change things.
They stay in white. Then the Bills get to wear their blue.
And on the flip end, maybe the Eagles think the same way. Like, hey, we've been wearing green the whole playoffs. Let's keep it.
Yep.
Okay. Well, what do we want the Bills to wear? Do we care if they were to get there? I think I'd want them in blue.
Yeah, I'm fine either way. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. Is the freighter free or is it still locked in the ice?
I mean, it's not that much warmer out, right? So,
well, I mean, they got an icebreaker coming.
I think I'd be surprised if they had got it out already.
Takes time. It's been a nice distraction. I'm trying to distract myself from the impending furious stress of this game.
Go look up some mock drafts. Get mad about the Bills drafting a running back somewhere. Mel Kiper's big board came out yesterday, I think.
I have seen one mock draft that had the Bills taking a defensive lineman 32nd overall.
There you go.
To which I would say, that's fine. Pick him 32 sounds great. Although the Bills did line up at the 32 spot briefly in this draft when they traded down with the Chiefs. Listen, if they lose, and Worthy is a big part of it, you will not hear me coming in Monday dunking and being mad about, maybe I'll take back not being mad about. I won't be dunking and saying, I told you so, but I will say and said the day they made the deal, I would never have done it. And I do think about it a lot. I do. I wonder, if you want to go this far, I wonder if they'd have the 1 seed if the Chiefs didn't make that trade. They had receivers get hurt all year, and all their wins are like 1-score wins. One less weapon there that's a little less dynamic. That hell, would this game be here? Maybe that's going too far. Fine. Forget I said all that. But if Xavier Worthy beats them, then that stinks. And you better believe it would be everywhere. It would be unavoidable. So let's just not let that happen.
I found the last time the Bills wore white uniforms, white pants, blue socks.
Okay.
Charger game last year. At the Chargers, that was a Saturday night game, I think.
And they barely beat Easton Stick.
Yes, they wore white on blue.
Good old Easton Stick.
They don't look that bad. I kind of like them. They do, you know what? Now that I see them in highlights, I think, I can...
You like them?
I like the fine china as the comparison.
The fine china.
They look like, fine china. More than Arctic, because the red doesn't make them look very Arctic-y.
803-0550. The tradition continues next. We have found a way. We're going to do our part to keep the Bills on a winning streak. That's coming up next.
Just call Jed Studios. Injured? Call Jed.com. WGR Sports Radio 550. It's all Bills all day. Buffalo Bills Football Friday, exclusively on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Brought to you by Celino Law. Car crash? Call Celino. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Start your game day the Crosby's way.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR 550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
All right. It's Football Friday. You may have thought, it can't be done. How could they do it? How could we get someone for Flyover Radio? It's in Kansas City. Ha!
No one can stop Flyover
Nothing
Radio.
can stop Flyover Radio. The Bills are undefeated when we have Flyover Radio. And joining us on the Wester Hotline is Lieutenant Colonel Falcone, goes by call sign Spider. He is with the B2 unit that will fly over Arrowhead Stadium for the AFC Championship. Lieutenant Colonel Falcone, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, Bills Mafia. Good morning, Western New York. I appreciate you guys for having me.
The tradition continues. We needed you. They're unbeaten when we talk to one of you guys that's with these Flyover units, and you are a Bills fan down there in Chiefs country.
Absolutely. Born and raised in North Buffalo. Unfortunately, I'm here having to live through the Chiefs' glory days, but hopefully this year it's different for our Buffalo Bills.
So you're part of the Missouri National Guard there with the B-2s and the director of operations for the 110th Bomb Squadron, the B-2 bomber. This is the Chiefs do this every year. I mean, they're in the AFC Championship game every year, as I'm sure you know. So this is what they do pretty much every year is the B-2?
Yeah, absolutely. They get a little spoiled with having us so close by, and we've been trying to make it happen in Buffalo. Hopefully we'll get an AFC championship there, and we'll do it there at some point in the near future. But, yeah, we operate right here out of Whiteman Air Force Base, middle of Missouri, send a couple of guys to the game and do the flyover for them. It's a great stadium, actually, to be at. I have to give credit where credit's due. The energy there is very much like Highmark Stadium. Their tailgating is on par, not as good. No one's as good as Bills Mafia.
Right.
But very similar feel. I was fortunate enough to be there for previous games, and unfortunately, I think I brought the luck to the Chiefs. So this year, I'm going to stay away, I think.
All right.
And hopefully change the tide.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got to find a way for the Bills to get a win. And, this might do it because we've been on a streak lately. Every time we do this, they get a win. So you've been with the B-2 unit since 2013. What can you tell us about the plane? You probably know the famous clip of like Pat McAfee and the guys on College Game Day.
Oh, yeah.
When they're just talking, and is that a B-2 that flies over and they all freak out?
I mean, it's undoubtedly the coolest plane, right?
I think so, personally. It is certainly a sight to see, and it's kind of breathtaking. And the crazy thing is you don't hear it coming. It's difficult to see at certain angles, but it's electric when it goes over a stadium because, believe it or not, as loud as it is in that jet, you can feel that electricity, whether it's the rockets going up during the national anthem as you're approaching the stadium or the fireworks that happen after as you're turning away from the stadium and get to look back and see just the crowd. You can almost feel the stadium pulsating wherever you do those flyovers. So just being in it is kind of it's humbling, being able to be a part of it. What we don't get to see quite often is that appreciation of the fans, the stadium. So when we have the opportunity to do something like this, it really brings us back down to the ground.
How many in the B-2, the bomber, when you guys fly it?
Just two. That's it can only seat two people. So when we go and do long missions, I mean, I've flown a 31-hour mission. It's just two of us the whole time. So that's what it is on these training sorties, and we use these flyovers as training sorties too. So unfortunately, the guys who fly it, they won't get back and get to watch the game. They'll either go air refuel after it's done, or they'll go do some practice bomb runs. So they'll be working the rest of the night. But for that short, let's call it 10-minute period before and after the flyover, they get to do something really special.
In terms of size, like this year at Highmark, it's been the Strata tanker. We had the C5. We had, what was the last one we just had?
A-10s.
We had A-10s. The helicopters. Just the size of this one in relation to other planes that do flyovers. Is it massive? Is it middle of the road?
I'd say it's middle of the road. I mean, wingspan-wise, it's 172 feet. So think, the width of a strato tanker. But front to back, it's probably the size of an F-15, maybe an A-10. It's pretty short front to back. But obviously, width, it's the size of probably a commercial airline, 172 feet. Yeah.
Lieutenant Colonel Falcone, who is with the B-2 unit that's flying over the Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday.
I mean, the biggest distinctions are that it's, one, like if you see it from straight on, at least flying, like thin compared to other planes, right? And then obviously if you see it from below, like the shape of it is what makes it unique, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on the angle you're looking at, different parts of the stadium, some people will get to see it perfectly on approach. Some people, the sun will just be hitting it a certain way that you won't even see it. And I can't explain, and neither can the engineers, why that is. But for some reason, different angles, it just lets you see it or it doesn't, which is really cool. But when it's overhead, everybody sees it. I kind of talk about it like the UFO from Independence Day, kind of black out the sun.
Yeah.
It's so big and it's got that shape. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
So there were, just like looking up some details of the plane, there are only 21 that were built. Like in comparison, if that's one even true, and two, like if that's true, like what is it about it that makes it like more rare or probably, I'm guessing, expensive?
Budget?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, it is true. There was only 21 of them built. When the contract was occurring, they were supposed to build more than 21, but unfortunately, budgeting got cut. The fleet stayed smaller, but the cost remained the same. So they're actually each worth $2.2 billion a piece. That's almost the cost of an aircraft carrier if you think about it. And they're very rare. They're only here at Whiteman Air Force Base. So to be here,
so
being one of the pilots here, it's pretty rare and pretty awesome.
So when you fly, like the Rose Bowl would have it, you'd be leaving from Missouri to go do that.
Always, yeah.
Wow.
Even any conflicts we go and operate out of, we leave here out of Whiteman Air Force Base in the middle of Missouri.
How much, thinking for sport events mostly here, but it could be anything. Because I wondered about the B-2 earlier in the year, like, oh, it'd be cool if we got a B-2 like over Highmark, because I don't think I remember seeing that. Maybe it's happened. And I would guess then, if they're so rare and they're probably everyone's number one choice, like I'm guessing you probably get a lot of requests for this for stadium flyovers.
Yeah, we do, and it's just a balancing act. It's what our maintenance can provide as we go and support combatant commanders around the world and other things that we have going on. But also, we do try to line it up with guys that are from areas who can support it. So we're trying to make the flyover happen at Highmark at some point here while I'm still here at Whiteman. But it is rare. We try to support air shows as well. So hopefully Thunder over Niagara, something like that, we can make it happen.
Very good. Lieutenant Colonel Falcone, Director of Operations, 110th Bomb Squadron, part of the B-2 unit that will be doing the flyover at Arrowhead. What's your pick for the game?
You want to score, too?
Yeah, why not? Give us whatever you got.
I think it's the Bills. I think it'll be close, somewhere 24-27. I think defenses are going to step up for this one. I think Josh is going to do his magic this time, though, and I think we're going to play aggressively and not let Mahomes get the ball back at the end of the game. So I think it's us. I think this is our year.
Very good. I mean, if you're trusted with a $2.2 billion plane, I'm trusting you with this pick. That's what we're doing.
I hope so. Anything I can do to help, guys, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, for keeping this tradition we've got alive. And the Bills have never lost when we've done it. So, onward and on to the Super Bowl, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. Go Bills.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
That's Lieutenant Colonel Falcone, call sign Spider of the B-2 Squadron there in Missouri. We did it. We did our part.
We did.
They've never lost. They've never lost when we did that.
Part of that's because they didn't lose at home this year.
Well, okay.
But that could be why.
We took it on the road. How is this any different than, if Sean McDermott brought home-cooked meals to Kansas City, made them feel like they were at home?
Yeah.
9:30 Friday. We even got one in on a Sunday, by the way. Don't forget that. We missed because we weren't sure there was going to be a flyover. We had on as part of the pregame show, the commitment.
The B-2 really looks like it's straight out of Star Wars.
It does. The clip of college.
It's like when Batman would fly.
The clip of College Game Day when they're just mid sentence, they're like, "Well, look at what's that."
Yeah, they're just flipping out.
It's the best. It's just funny.
Yeah.
All right, thanks again to Lieutenant Colonel Falcone, and of course to Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Abels, who's the one that every time there's a flyover, I reached out to him like, what do you think? Can we get this done this week? And he comes through every time. So the tradition continues as part of Football Friday. 803-0550, the phone number. The Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show is coming up, top of the hour. We have, like 10 more hours worth of content we could get to, but we've got one more segment. So we'll do the best we can. You want to give us a call, you can jump on. I'm sure Sal will take calls as well. He's got Sean McDermott and Pat Hammer, and the countdown is on. Also, I'm told that if the Bills win, is there any sort of jinx to Sports Thunder? Don't we say we're going to do Sports Thunder and it doesn't go that way? Don't fear jinxes?
I mean, you kind of already have said it, haven't you?
True. Sports Thunder. Basically, when we come in on Monday, someone will still be here.
Yeah. You may have been able to guess.
So who is it going to be? Is it you? Josh? It's going to be Josh.
I don't know. You could also guess what we'd be doing. Like I don't know right now whether or not we'd have Sports Thunder after they won the Super Bowl, but I can make a very easy prediction.
Fair.
Same
if they win the Super Bowl, you're not going to see me for like 2 weeks.
Have you?
I don't know where I'm going to go.
Have you thought about the mechanics of if they win the Super Bowl? Like I have been thinking about that. Like
I can't. Okay, my brain doesn't wrap around it.
Like me and my cousin were talking about this last night. Like where would we go? Right? Like if they did win it, where would you be in the first place? Where would you go? Like she said, like, well, go to the airport. I'm like, they're not coming home that night, right? Like the team, if they were to win, is in New Orleans. They are going out that night, so you're not going to the airport, which means I think you're probably going downtown. Just loosely, like, try to find a group of people. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute. We'd have a show the next day. Am I going to not sleep that night? Like, what am I going to try to do? Go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning? That's going to work?
I don't know.
If they just won, who's sleeping?
I think vibes alone would just keep us awake.
Yeah, that's probably right.
We would all just
night,
exist
all-nighter?
together.
I'm going to throw it out there as an idea. If you don't like it, you just throw it right back. If they win, we're talking Super Bowl or just this week? Well, just this week.
Both. But this week, yeah.
This week. Party on the freighter. Let's go. It's there. It's a sign. It's big.
It's not being used for, well, I mean, maybe it is.
It can
just hanging out.
I'm sure it can accommodate a lot of people.
A party freighter.
Party on the freighter.
How are we going to get to the freighter?
The frozen freighter. Helicopters.
I thought we were going to go like something simple, like snowshoes or something. No,
helicopters.
Apache helicopters are going to drop us in.
All right, Extendo Sports coming up, and we'll wrap up our Football Friday.
Extendo Sports.
All right. I would say see you all on the other side, but we have like pregame on Sunday, so we're going to talk about it a little bit more.
Yes. And we have a lot of, Sal coming up.
Yep.
Bulldog. We got a lot coming up.
Matt Bove tweeting that in Kansas City at his hotel, we are on the television. Now,
the heck?
A quick little forensic study. It's us from 2 days ago on the television, and I know what that is. I did an interview. Yes, I did an interview with a station in Kansas City, like a Zoom call. I'm sure they pulled a clip to talk about what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I was asked a million questions about the Chiefs, and I told them I hate all their guts and they're terrible people. Not exactly. Exactly. That was I was staring into the camera.
They are searching for bulletin board material. There was a completely another made-up thing. One Chiefs fan account was claiming that Bills fans had been referring to it as Arrowhead.
I mean, I'll do that right now.
I mean, the Bengals did it. This has never been uttered one time. And he's won there.
He has.
Multiple times. In fact, actually, what's the stat I heard last night? The Chiefs have... Is it the Chiefs have 4 losses at Arrowhead in the last 3 years, and 3 of them are 3 of them are by the Bills?
Yeah.
Like the Chiefs, in some amount of time, the Chiefs only have like a very few amount of losses at Arrowhead, and like all but 1 are the Bills. And then 1 is the Bengals.
Quick non-Bills note. You'll love this. Ovechkin scored last night. He is
20 away.
He is 20 away from the all-time goal-scoring mark.
He's going to do it.
Chris Cuthbert had this. It was his 400th goal since turning 30.
Wow.
Gordie Howe scored 415 after turning 30. Do you know how many
he played till 50?
Yeah. How many did Gretzky score after turning 30?
Maybe I'll guess the same. 400.
188.
Come on.
188. We got to go. That's it. 188 after turning 30. Ovechkin, 400. Go Bills.
Holy.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.